Where is that? Where is that? That's like his character. It says, it tells everything about his character. In between was professor. Gonna have the first black. He said is a word such as refugee. Let's go here. So things that I use. He came to England. Yeah, I will go myself. Okay. So they asked him like this in interview 2016. They say when asked if he would call himself an author of post-colonial and or a world literature, Guna replied, "I would not use any of those words. I wouldn't call myself a something writer of any kind. In fact, I am not sure that I'll call myself anything apart from my name. I guess if somebody challenges me, that will be another way of saying, 'Are you one of these?' I would probably say no. Precisely, I don't want that part of me having a reductive name." Yeah, that was his answer when they asked him
So
about that.
brilliant.
It's crazy.
So
Wow.
brilliant.
Yeah,
Even
that was
even when
2016.
even when he's answering a question from journalists,
Uh,
he's still poetic in his answer.
yeah, you saw that. You saw that. Book written by Guna where displayed in the Canary. I don't know why I cannot see this novel.
I'll check him out. Definitely.
Yeah, I think we'll check it out. Yeah.
Hmm.
How do you spell his name, by the way?
Let me share here in the comment section, you guys to see. I had to make even a news like that. I went right away and did a news. I was like, come on, I need to say something about this. Where is it? Why? Post a comment right here. Yes. So this is his name. Like I just posted in the comment section. Guys, it's good to have you. Welcome back, Swahili Nation family. Man, this is gonna be an amazing day. Some people here say congratulations. I appreciate Yetewaje. We appreciate Africa. This is our prize, and we need to celebrate. You know what I'm saying? Our brother won, Nobel Prize. Why don't we
Definitely.
celebrate that together?
Definitely.
Gentlemen,
Definitely.
it's good to have you guys back.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
It's good to be here. Oh,
So
is the book title Paradise?
yeah. That's one of them as well.
Well, it's one of the book. Well, just because I see that. Oh, The Last Gift is another book. It's a novel.
Yeah.
I wonder which one it
The
is.
the one that it won, I think it was.
The Last Gift.
Oh, okay. Look at what he said. He tweeted. He said, "I dedicate this Nobel Prize to Africa and Africans, and to all my readers. Thank you. Thanks. That's it. That's it. This guy. Oh man. I don't know. Anyways, it's a big deal to me. I think I'll write
It is
like an
no, it's the
article.
big deal for all of us. It is
Yeah.
incredible. We have to celebrate. I think,
Mm.
like I mean, it really fits into the topic that we're talking about, which is like, what do we do? How do we bring
Yeah.
everybody together? Is by
Mm.
bringing these voices all over the continent and giving it a platform. I was saying this yesterday. Like, what is
Mm.
missing
Mm.
is the opportunity to be heard, the opportunity
Mm.
for African voices to be heard, or
Mm.
and then bring that diversity of thoughts. Because,
Mm.
like, how do we unite? What are
Mm.
we uniting together?
Mm.
Are these just 54 countries, or
Mm.
are we uniting? The millions of ideas,
Mm.
the millions of pursuits of Africans who are pursuing all different sorts of things that are important to them,
Mm.
and important to the world. How do we? So it's about giving, shining the light on that. So one of the things that we could do to increase participation is like we need to be we need to bring those voices to the surface, and then those
Mm.
people who value those things will come with that.
Mm.
So there are people who care about
Mm.
great authors like Abdul Razak, And
mm,
so that conversation is so that's what I'm talking about. Like, yeah, people who care
yeah.
about what we do when regarding African concern on the global platform, be it on the UN Security Council or any other platform or G20. I mean, we have this, for example, what's called G20,
Mm,
and as individual African countries, we might not have the economic power to be
mm,
part of it. Let's maybe South Africa or Nigeria may qualify for that G20. But as a continent, the economic power, is sufficient enough to warrant a platform, a place, not just even in G20, in, in G7s or G8, whatever number that is. Like, how do we bring Africa to that table
mm,
is part of the, like, that should be our pursuit,
mm.
like, bringing everybody's voice to the table. I don't know. Kuru, I know you have a presentation to do. I don't.
Yeah.
I think I would reserve any other comment until I see you.
My brother right here, he is about to take the Africa down. Um, to all new level. Kuru, Professor Kuru.
Yeah, yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah, man, you can go ahead, man. Professor Kuru, guys, ladies and gentlemen, he has prepared
It should be
the
by Professor
presentation.
Kuru Iti, not by Kuru Iti.
Uh, yeah, Professor Kuru, man, we have already gave you that
Yeah,
honor here in Swahili Nation. So you are Professor
yeah.
Kuru.
Yeah.
I need to prepare a
Just
certificate or
for a
something.
disclaimer, right? I'm not actually a professor. So I'm just an honorary professor, so that
Bestowed by
Yeah,
One Africa.
disclaimer.
yeah. This is pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. Yesterday we had a very interesting discussion, and the brother from Gambia, he just proposed an idea, and then he said, like, why are we like why are like the rest of Africans, like, why are we not getting, what is it that we're not really understanding, like what is not we're not getting it, I think, something like that, that the idea. So
Mm,
for me, so I just made this little presentation, so that we have a structured uh conversation.
Conversation. Yeah.
Okay, so
mm,
go ahead, Mika. So this is the urgency for African unity. So why is African unity is urgent at this point,
mm,
right? So just
mm,
before we do that, so just this as a recap, so we can see Africans have been utterly affected by colonialism. So let's
mm,
see a bit of history, right? So what has been done so far, and our models of thoughts, culture, development, and economics has really been affected by colonialism, right? So this is the
mm,
history that we Africans have. Next page, Mika. So on this context, next page. Okay, yeah, and okay, let's see colonialism. Like, what is colonialism, right? The aim of colonialism is to exploit the physical, the human, and the economic resources of an area to benefit the colonizing nation, right? It is to
mm,
provide the maximum economic benefit to the colonizing powers at the lowest possible price. That is
mm,
colonialism. Colonialism as an idea, right? As a practice and as an idea, was not just about economic subjugation, but also political subjugation, right?
mm.
Next slide.
Yeah, I think it's taking a while to go up, but um,
Okay, it's
I
okay.
already put it up.
So, as a result, poverty and financial instability, ethnic division, what has created, like, because of colonialism, what has been created? So, poverty and financial instability, ethnical division, right? Lack of indigenous ideology, right? Poor education,
Mm,
poor infrastructure, or lack of it. Health, poor health, right? Poor
mm,
health issues. There is unemployment. There is high population growth, right? In Africa, there is insecurity, like that is manifested as violence or war. There's corruption
mm,
and those kind of stuff, right? And
mm,
now, and not only that, but we entered into a new era called what,
mm.
Mika?
Neocolonialism.
Mhm.
Definitely a
mm,
neo-colonialism, right? That was
mm,
then, and this is now.
mm,
So this
mm,
the thing has just changed a little bit.
mm,
So
mm,
let's just give you a little bit definition of what neo-colonialism is for those who really don't know it. It's the
mm,
practice of using economic imperialism, globalization,
mm,
cultural imperialism, and conditions to influence a developing country instead of previous colonial methods of
mm,
imperialism or indirect political growth, hegemony,
mm,
right? So this is the
mm,
definition that the definition from Google, right?
mm,
So
mm,
and so what's the solution then? What's the solution? I think only have with the only feasible solution we have is one, that is
mm,
African unity, right? So and
mm,
the Kwame Nkrumah at the
mm,
AU, the foundation of AU or Organization for Africa back in the days,
mm,
but now AU, he said these words. It's like we Africans must unite or perish. So we only have
mm,
one choice. So
Just
we
just
Africans must unite or
just a little
perish.
bit. Who is Kwame Nkrumah? Use this opportunity to tell us who Kwame Nkrumah is.
Yeah, yeah. Kwame Nkrumah was a Ghanaian president. So he's one of the founders, members of African Union, and he's a very
mm,
the former Pan Africanist, right? So just
Yeah,
mm,
an
the
introduction.
first
Right.
Ghanaian president after independence. Yeah,
Independence, yeah,
mm,
yeah.
yeah.
He's a very influential
mm.
person still today.
Yes.
So, I mean, because of colonialism, what are the, okay, let's talk about the challenges for African unity. What are the challenges,
Mm,
okay? Let's take those
mm,
out first. Uh,
mm.
why are we not,
Well, we're not
maybe,
uniting.
yeah, exactly. So, one
Mm,
is colonial borders, right? So, what is the
mm,
colonial borders? That's the borders that is created by colonialism, right? So,
mm,
maybe we need borderless. Maybe the solution be a borderless continent. Yeah, that's
Or
feasible.
soft
Maybe.
borders or whatever,
Huh?
or
yeah.
soft
Yeah,
borders.
exactly. Soft borders, or yeah, that's exactly. And language barriers. Maybe we
Mm,
need a one language. You know,
mm,
instead
mm,
of all, you can name all the languages that African has right now, right?
yeah.
And the
Mm,
economic disintegration, right? Maybe we need one
mm,
currency or one financial
mm,
system institution. Like we have the World Bank, right? So why not have African Bank?
Africa
Uh,
back. Yeah.
yeah.
take it back, Mika.
Mm.
Back,
And
back, back,
leadership.
back. Before this,
Before this
yeah,
one?
yeah. And leadership, right? Like, do we
Yeah.
need a centralized leadership? So this is are the questions that we need to ask. Like, why
Mm,
our African unity didn't happen, right? Do we have a
mm,
central leadership and the management, right?
mm,
And next,
mm. Okay. How?
yeah. And the question is, everybody asks like, how? How can we make African unity possible, right?
Mm,
So
mm,
now today, I want us to talk about philosophy. Believe it's all
mm,
starts with philosophy and ideology, right?
mm,
Because that was the
mm,
ideology that was put on us by different people, right? By different
mm,
the different ideologies that we embraced and really didn't work. So
mm,
now Africans need to develop a modern Afrocentric philosophy or
mm,
system of ideas that
mm,
reflects history, culture, tradition, and challenges.
exactly.
Right? So next slide.
Mm, mm,
Next slide.
yeah, it's already there. Ah, okay. This another.
Yeah, for some reason I'm not seeing the next slide.
Oh, you're not seeing?
Yeah, the next slide. Yeah,
Ezra, can you
before
see?
this, before this,
Uh,
before this.
I
Yeah, I
see
already.
Madammer. I see Madammer.
Yeah, that
Before
but
that,
it
I
was
put this
before
one.
this.
Oh,
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, indigenous
we
philosophy and
need an indigenous
ideology.
philosophy and ideology. So
Yeah.
mm,
from this point of view, so I want the African people because Madema has
mm,
been I'm sorry for for all African brothers and sisters out there, you know. So
mm,
we our prime okay. There's a new ideology which is
mm,
indigenous philosophy and ideology, right?
mm,
So
mm.
next slide.
Okay. I
Yeah.
think it's taking a long time from you.
Ah, okay, okay, because of the connection, right? So
Mm,
the new philosophy is called Madamar, right? This
mm,
is the new
mm,
philosophy. I'm sure, Mika, if you
mm,
heard of it, it is
yeah.
the new book, one of the first books
Mm,
that our prime minister has published.
mm,
So
mm,
what is Madamar? What is it? So
mm.
let's just define Madamar, right?
Okay. Mm. It is an Amharic word equivalent for addition, but
Exactly.
contextually it means synergy.
Definitely, definitely. If you see it from it's a Latin word, right? Synergy. It
Mm,
means
mm.
syn means together, and
Uh-huh.
ergy means work. So
Work.
working together.
Oh, all right.
All right.
That's beautiful. That's
All right.
amazing.
Cool. So next slide. So I'm just gonna
Yeah.
be I'm gonna do some clarification on the concept, right? So that
All right.
everybody's clear
Mm,
about it. So Madhava describes a synergetic process of coming together of
mm,
individuals,
mm,
groups, leaders,
mm,
and institutions to
mm,
work more energetically, effectively,
mm,
and creatively for the
mm,
common good and for the
mm,
public interest. That
mm,
synergy, using a physics metaphor, would be
mm,
like fusion, in which nuclei combines to release a vast amount of energy. Right? Go ahead.
mm, mm,
When individual groups and
mm,
institutions, for example, right, comes together
mm,
in Mademmer philosophy or form,
mm,
they release a vast amount of social, political, and economic energy. It is an act
mm.
of synergy, and Mademmer helps us to achieve collectively what we can only imagine individually. Right?
Individually. That's so
Exactly.
good.
Yeah.
Mm,
Right. This equation
mm-hmm,
resonates on all Ethiopians saying if the silk in spider's web could be made into twine, it would tie
mm,
up a lion. And
mm.
in Ethiopian saying we call it ambasa biabir ambasa yasir, right?
Can I say it? Can I say it a little bit better? I don't know.
And dir
I have
biabir
another
ambasa
version of it.
yasir.
I have another version
Okay.
of it. It's when the spider webs unite, they
Yeah.
can tie down a lion.
Wow. Nice.
Mm,
Very nice.
That's
Very
an
nice.
I've
mm-hmm.
used this before many times. So like I
Yeah.
should
I'm
have,
sure.
but I don't take credit. Somebody else gave me this.
No, we
It's
will give
been
you
a
credit, man.
long
Don't
time.
worry.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So, so it says like the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, right? In other words,
Mm.
for an organization or society to be successful, the functional element cannot consist of merely individual working independently and
That's
exclusively
true.
in their own self-interest.
Mm,
They must
mm.
be part of a large community that
Community.
shares
Mm-hmm.
a common purpose. This is very
Mm,
important. This is very important.
mm,
They must be part of a large community that
mm,
shares a common
mm,
purpose, goals,
mm,
and objectives, and apply a social, political, and economic synergy to create a public good. That's the whole
mm.
concept of it, right?
So
So
good.
you don't
Yeah.
think about like this country, this country, this country, this country. No, think
Mm.
about Africa first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then comes to
Mm-hmm.
your country. From the
Mm,
whole to the sum of the
To the
parts.
parts. Yeah.
mm,
Yeah.
Madabar as a
mm,
philosophy is essentially about inclusiveness.
mm.
It resonates the principle without you, there is no me. Without me, there is no you. In our
Ubuntu.
context,
So
it
good.
says, yeah,
Ubuntu essentially
before
Ubuntu
this,
means
spirit.
yeah, before
yes.
this, it says like,
Mm.
before this.
Before this, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Them as a philosophy is essentially about inclusiveness. It
exactly.
resonates the principle without you, there's no me, and without me, there's no you.
There's no you. In our context, let's put it in our context. Like, without,
Mm,
for example, in Ethiopia, without Amhara, there's no Tigray. Without Tigray, there's no
mm,
Oromo. There's no
mm,
Oromo. There is no Gambela, stuff like that, right? In Africa
mm,
context, without Gambia, there is no
mm,
Rwanda, Burundi,
mm,
or
mm,
without Zambia, there is no
mm,
Tanzania. Those kind
mm,
of stuff, right? So without you,
mm,
there is no me. Okay, let's
mm,
go there.
mm.
Continue.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh, I can read it for you, maybe if it's too late.
No, 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 it's okay.
Okay.
Uh, in nature, things grow and develop in a process of assertion. That means
Mm,
madama, or
mm,
growth by gradual build up. So we start from small, it
mm,
builds up, right? Small things
mm.
add up to become bigger things, right? One
Hmm.
of
Yeah.
the ideas that came into my mind is a very interesting idea, right? For example, let's
Mm,
take
mm,
nuclear weapon. I'm not saying that we're gonna have a nuclear weapon, right?
Oh yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
I
Or,
just want to put it out.
if we say
I don't
nuclear
want them to
power,
shut down my
no, no,
YouTube.
no, no. Let's have nuclear power. Let's use nuclear
Okay.
power instead of nuclear
Yeah,
weapon.
Yeah.
Nuclear power.
think of it like this, all right? So,
Yeah.
okay, if
That's
one
smart.
country wants to have a nuclear weapon like Ethiopia or Tanzania, right? That
Nuclear power.
is merely impossible, right?
Yeah.
But the whole African continent decided like wants to have a nuclear weapon. It can,
No.
You mean
Sorry.
power?
huh?
I would say nuclear. I would use nuclear power instead of nuclear weapon because
No, I'm just gonna say, yeah, I'm just sharing
nuclear
ideas.
power
Mm,
is also not easily attainable. By
Yeah,
itself.
but like as a whole
It takes
continent,
billions
our
of dollars to
efforts.
build one nuclear power station. Billions of dollars
Mhm.
to build one nuclear
mm,
power station.
Yeah, like
Power station.
just think of
Just
it
the
like
power
that.
station. That's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it says Madama is a concept of unity of diversity. However, to be united does not mean to be one. That's a very important
mm,
thing.
mm,
It's about bringing together our collective forces for collective security,
mm,
prosperity, cherishing diversity, and power. Wow, I love this. Being
mm,
greater than the sum of our parts. Being greater than the sum of our parts.
mm,
So it says everything makes sense when seen in a holistic nature,
mm,
as a broad, okay?
mm.
So as the saying goes, united we stand and divided we fall.
Reform. Yes.
Definitely.
Oh yeah. Man, I
And
have a
I
good
just
story
wanna
about this guy. I'll
please,
share with
please,
you guys later.
I just wanna
Mm.
conclude by
Yeah.
quoting Martin Luther King. I'm sure everybody knows Martin Luther King.
Oh
Mika,
yeah.
do you want me to introduce you to Martin Luther King?
Man, yeah. I have a good story about
Personal
him because
relationships.
yeah, personal relationship. I have a personal relationship with his daughter because his last daughter, Benny's King, she visited
Really?
Korea. Yeah, she
Are
visited
you
Korea
serious?
last year.
Wow.
Yes, she
So
visited
you are
Korea
just
Wow.
last
one
year,
degree separation from
and
Martin.
so she visited Korea last year, and she came. She was invited to our church because the church that I was going, it's the biggest church, like full gospel
Wow.
church there. So she came, and when she came, she wanted to meet young people. She wanted to meet young people, and she mentioned the number was like five young people, and
Mm-hmm.
I was one that I was
Wow.
chosen also to go. So I
Wow.
The
went to
chosen one.
hotel. So I went to hotel. We went to wait for her. There's so many passes. There are like more than like 40 different passes. They went to the airport to pick her up, and she came with a lot of securities, and we were waiting for her at the airport. I have a video, a few seconds, like how I met Benny's King. So we're waiting for her. She came, and we went all the way to her room, and I wanted to record the session, because of my YouTube thing. So I was like, I asked her that, oh, can I record this session that we are talking about? And she was like, no, no, this is just for you guys. So we sat down for like more than 2 hours, and she was just sharing us a lot of stuff. And
Wow.
I got a chance personally to ask her personal questions about her dad and about
Wow.
the fight that are going. Because at that time she was very young, but she
Wow.
still she could understand what's going on. And then at the end of the day, she gave me it's kind of like magazine. It's in my bag. I would have shown you guys magazine of his speech. I have a dream, and
Mm-hmm.
the picture of him, and also she signed there,
Oh my God.
Benny Singh and
Yeah.
everything. I have that, and
That's cool.
yeah, it was just amazing. So anytime I go to the
Nice.
US, I would definitely go to that to the headquarters, you know
Yes.
because we
Wow.
took some pictures and things like that. Yeah,
Yeah. Mika,
Wow.
that's incredible. Like to have an opportunity
yeah.
to share
Yeah.
this, special person's life.
Mm.
I mean,
It was amazing. Yeah,
not far off from
mm.
meeting Martin Luther King. You were like so close
Yeah.
to it.
I met his daughter, and I
Yeah.
because I was reading all the time, and it was really inspiring me. But hearing the stories from his daughter, like firsthand information, man, I couldn't even record. I wanted to record it legally, but it was an amazing session. And I got to find out that he started this movement when he was 16,
Wow.
and yeah, and for me, and that time I remember when I was meeting him. I was like, is he 16 or 26? I'm kind of confused, but I was actually at that age that he started, and I
Wow.
was meeting this woman, and yeah, even her secretary, she's following me on Instagram, so we're still in touch.
That's really, really, really nice.
Yeah, man, I
That's
can't
really,
wait.
really
Yeah.
nice, man. Wow.
All right, you can continue.
Yeah. So this is on the end note. So just he says like we
Mm,
must learn to live together as brothers or
mm,
sisters, or perish
mm,
together as fools, man. So that's a
mm,
very profound statement made by
mm,
him. And
mm.
at last, I just want to say the last. I
The
just want to
last
say
one. Oh,
God
sorry.
bless. Yeah,
Yes.
God bless.
Mm,
So that's just the
mm,
final note.
I like the
But
Ethiopian crossover there.
yeah,
mm,
But
I just want to point out
I
for
think
those.
like
Sorry.
we have like a huge population of Muslims in
mm,
Africa, huge massive population of Muslims.
mm,
Part of our drive
Hmm.
should be to include that in our
Oh,
future
true,
endeavors, if that's
true,
possible.
true. True. And for those of you who really want to know more about this philosophy called Madama, right? So
mm,
I just shared a link with Mika. There's you can find it in your email, Mika.
mm.
I just
Yeah,
shared
I
a
found
link.
it already.
Yeah. Okay. Then you can
Mm,
post that, and then people can really check the
definitely.
conversation that is based on Madama, right? So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
just
yeah.
the thing that I really want to present. So I just so that our
Mm,
conversation will be structured. That's
Oh
all.
my God,
mm.
Kuru!
Wow.
I mean, how can
Come
you
on,
not
guys.
say you're not officially a professor?
It's a Professor Kuru, man.
What the term professor refers to to the to the highest ideals of an educator. I
Mm,
mean, like educate people and transform minds and hearts.
mm,
And
mm,
who's not going
mm.
to be transformed? And their mind and heart is not going to be transformed with this presentation. Come on! So
Come on,
you
man.
gotta accept professorship now. You
Mm,
can't just say
mm,
it's
mm,
nominal now. It is
mm,
real.
mm, mm. It's real. I'm prophesying over your life right now.
Oh,
We got
hello,
Rusty,
brothers. I have
Rusty
a
and Benjamin.
follow-up question for the presentation.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
How are you brothers doing?
good,
Hey,
good.
how
We're
are you, man?
good.
Thank you,
It's
thank
good
you.
to have you here, man.
I really, appreciate this presentation. Because like I was saying yesterday, you know, I'm always eager to learn, and anytime I see this kind of stuff, it's just I have to screenshot them even, just so I can have them.
Wow.
So thank you very much for this presentation. But my
My pleasure,
follow-up
man.
questions would be, I think it was your slide 102 when you gave us a brief history about colonialism. So, what came to mind for me was, if we're going to progress and move forward, so it looks like we're going to be going back to pre-colonial Africa.
Mhm,
What were the indigenous agencies or social structures we had
mhm,
prior to colonization? And if we were to go back and look at these agencies that we have, we know, for example, it's an ancient nation. We know about the West African empires, Ghana, Mali, and Songhai, and
mhm,
and so many other events that took place prior to the arrival of the colonizers. So,
mhm,
you know, if we were to go back, pre-colonial period and look at these agencies that were there, um,
mhm,
are they would they be applicable to modern day Africans or Africa?
mhm,
And
mhm,
what would be these things that we identify, and can we apply them easily today? With because we have evolved too, and we have to accept that.
Hmm.
With
mhm,
our 1,000 years ago in Africa, and today Africans might we might be a little different because of
mhm,
the globalization issue, and we've been exposed to so many other things. So that would be my first questions. What are pre-colonial Africa? And my
mhm,
second question would be about each nation in Africa. What are the responsibility of each nation state within Africa? Before um, the process of unification. Because if we want to come together, should there be any prerequisite for each nation, for us to be able to smoothen this unification that we're talking about. Each country might, it's different tribes, different understanding, even though we have more in common than what different than our differences. But what do each country within Africa need to do so we can at least start to, smoothing our unification? All
That's a
right.
It's
good question,
amazing
man.
questions.
Yeah.
Thank you, brothers.
Wow, brother, man. Wow. Yeah, and by the way, brother, I think some of the questions you can also answer yourself, right?
Yeah.
For us,
Yes.
because I feel like you do have answers and some
Yes.
suggestions.
I
Yeah,
think so.
I'm sure.
Feel free, brother.
Uh, I can start if you guys are okay with it.
Yeah. Please.
So,
Definitely.
like, what are the some of the measures that we can take in order to make African unity happen, right?
so
So,
I
I think,
want to cut you
No,
there.
right,
historical context.
Help me out.
How
from
do we
the
bring
historical
in?
context, right?
Yeah. How do we bring the context of history,
Hmm.
pre-colonial Africa,
Hmm.
forward to now as part of that process? I think
Hmm.
that's essentially what I understood. Yeah.
Okay. So, I
Wonderful.
think I'm just gonna give that to Isra. So, I'm sure he will
No, 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 no,
explain that
no,
more.
no, no. You go. You go ahead. Come on, please. Come on, please.
But I'm gonna go. No, just for because I have some ideas on the second question. So let me
Yeah.
share that
Yeah.
first, so that I can marinate
Okay.
some ideas. If I come across some ideas, I'll
Yeah.
probably share.
All right.
Okay. So I think, I mean, what are the measures? I think what are the measures I think that we can apply today, so that we can create the African unity, right? In my perspective, I think the first one uh, is we need to start small. I think that's a
Mm,
very good. I mean, that's the first step that we need to do. Start small, right?
mm,
So, for example, there's East Africa, there's West Africa, there's Southern Africa, there's Northern Africa, right? So,
mm,
like, let's integrate in those blocks, like the Eastern Africa block. Okay, let's create a common, for example, we can say economically, you can create a common currency. We can create a a free movement of people, free movement of trade, stuff like that. We can create
mm,
those kind of stuff. Those are the measures that we can take now. But the common currency for we can create an African Union passport, for example, right? African Union passport. I think it's already been created. I don't know if it's applicable or
It's in the
not.
pipeline, I think.
I
Huh?
think it's already been created. I think.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
like no visa required to travel to each African nations that we can do now. That we
Yeah.
can do now. The trade is kind of like complicated, I think. So maybe it's better if we start small and from all the first within each region, right? It should has doesn't have for example, in Ethiopia, if we take example of Ethiopia, uh, there should be a free movement of people from the north, the east, the west, and the south, right? So there, start there, right? And then take it to the wider area, to the wider area of East Africa, and go to the West Africa, and then South Africa, then the East Africa. So we can do that. But if you think of think think of economic integration, I mean that's one thing is trade. So that's just the idea I want to put out. So
mm,
in terms of like the institutes that has already been existed in our history,
mm,
uh, in our for example, because I really don't know nothing about or I don't have much knowledge about other Africans uh, traditional historical makeup, right? I don't know. I
mm,
don't know that. So I'm just going to give an example of Ethiopian, right? Last time we discussed this, and for example, we have an education system that is based on the Kolo system, right? This is a Kolo Tamari means there are like this is an education that is before
Modern before
pre
modern education.
yeah, before modern education existed, right?
Yeah.
It's really based on spirituality and building character and in adding value to people, like having values in life, right? So building character, having uh, most important values in people in children's, right? So that's the education system that existed before the new education system. Then how can we merge this, right? So we can do it like we can take the things from this the Ethiopian Kolo system, right? And you can merge it with the new education system for the for the kids that that goes through to kinder, like what do you call it, like the first grade or second grade before they join uh, the modern education system, right? So we can do that,
Mm.
for example. Okay,
And
so that's a very
mm,
that's one of the that's how we can apply that, and we can be very creative about it, like so it doesn't have to be the old ways, but like what are the things that we can benefit from introducing this the traditional one to the modern education system. For example, the one is the fear of God, for example. One that is and one the second one is so that when they are the children, like the kids, when they are learning about spirituality and stuff like that, their imagination
mm,
can really broaden, so those kind of stuff, I
mm,
think, is a very
mm,
important one.
mm.
So those are the comments that I want to make. So we can
Oh,
instill character, we can instill values, right? Like moral values to children. If we integrate
mm,
those, we can take some elements from the traditional one, and then we can integrate them however we
mm,
however we think it fits, right? So those
mm,
are
mm.
the things I want to share.
Yeah.
So I hope I answer your question, man.
Wait,
No.
adding to that point, let me add something because
Okay.
Yeah,
I think the second question, another angle that he asked, he said, responsibility of all nations in Africa, like
Yes. What is the response?
to
Yeah.
yeah, what are the responsibility of maybe Ethiopia, Tanzania, South Africa? My brother from South Africa right here, Ezra, is joining us today.
yeah,
Appreciate you.
Mister. Oh, we have
Um,
two Israels now.
yeah, this is my
It's
brother.
a
He
very
joined me the
rare
other
occasion.
day that
Hey,
you guys
mark
were not
this. It's a
here.
rare occasion to have two Israels in the same place.
This
So
brother right here,
it's
he's really
special.
smart.
Then this audience is now suddenly has
Yeah.
turned into a special session.
Yeah, I gotta talk before him because if he talks, I might not be able to talk. So the responsibility of all nations in Africa. So I want to show something, guys, that Ezra,
Yeah.
Ezra from, yes, Ezra from the US. Actually, we have nuclear power in Africa. For example, Tanzania turns to nuclear power, and this just happened like in I don't remember exactly the timeline, but according to this news, it say Tanzania is to start up using nuclear power after the country parliament enacted a law last week permitting the use of uranium because they found like uranium.
Deposit of uranium. Yeah.
Yes, somewhere that it's a lot. Like the move could make
Nika,
Tanzania the
can
first.
I stop you for a moment? Can I stop
Yes,
you
yes, yes,
for just a moment?
yes, yes,
Just
yes.
to ask you administrative questions.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
use WhatsApp? Do you use
Hello?
WhatsApp? Do you have WhatsApp?
What's up? Yes, 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 yes. I
Okay.
use.
Sorry about that. Just wanted to
Uh,
make sure. Go
all
ahead,
right,
please.
all right.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. All right. So I said the move could make Tanzania the first country in East and Central Africa to use nuclear technology to generate electricity. And I say many government representatives has welcomed the proposed shift to nuclear power, saying it will boost economic development and allow an increase in the proportion of clean energy. But there is public concern that the move could cause friction if it is taken without the support of the international community. You see that? International community.
Yes.
And here is where
Wow.
myself I became very skeptical when I see things like this. But when it comes to unity and uniting different countries in Africa and responsibilities of each country, look, for example, what um, has been found in Tanzania, uranium power, right? It's
Yes.
something that it
Wow.
can benefit not just Tanzania, but actually the whole continent of Africa to have an
Wow.
amazing energy and electricity to be free everywhere. Okay, look at what is happening maybe in Ethiopia and the dam issue. Like the amount of
Definitely.
electricity that will come
Definitely.
from that, it's not just for Ethiopia. It can actually help even some other
Definitely.
African countries around that.
Yeah.
And you can look
Definitely.
at Congo and what they do have, or the minerals, or the things that they have. It cannot just help the Congo's economy, but it can help actually the entire continent.
Continent.
So, oh yeah, all this responsibility we're talking about, I think we have to reach the point of knowing what is your strength. What is the strength of Kenya? What is the strength of
Mhm.
South Africa? What do you guys have that we don't have? Instead of finding international community to support us to generate the nuclear power, we can actually
Definitely.
collaborate with one another to make sure that we
Definitely.
protect what we have, and it's being used for the sake of Africans first.
Yeah.
And then later on, I mean, if we want to support someone else, then it can happen. But Africa, we have been left behind for a while, and thankfully, this actually happened during the previous president, RIP. And he just said that, you know what, we're just gonna keep this. And then if we found out that actually during the time of Nyerere, like he already knew a lot of stuff that they were going on, but
Yes.
you know, he had the same spirit of not allowing anybody to come. Because as soon as you find this, you hear a lot of people coming that, hey, we want to support you. We want to support to generate the power you have so that you can use it. But then there's another plan B, you know, inside the mind. But if we have that unity in Africa, I'm pretty sure that we'll be able to use this thing for the sake and for the good of our people right here inside Africa. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
So
I would say
that's just
what
something
is
I
good
wanted to
for
add. Yeah,
what is good for Africa will be good for the world. That's
exactly.
always the thing that we
That's
have to think
amazing.
about. What is good for Africa is always good. If Africa is out of poverty, the
Yeah.
the impact on climate that
Mm,
poverty brings,
mm,
it will not, because poverty and environmental degradations have
mm,
strong correlation. It's been proven to have strong correlation. The less
mm,
people are poor, the better
mm,
they protect their environment and
mm,
their space. The more
mm,
people are safe and secure,
mm,
the better they
mm,
will do for themselves and then for their community.
yeah.
Mika, have you finished, or should I go ahead and
Oh, yeah,
um,
please go, because we
okay,
have
so
a
I
lot of
sent
people here
stuff
today.
on WhatsApp for you, but not to post it
Yes.
right now. But I sent stuff.
Mm,
That's the only way I could send you right now. But I sent stuff
okay.
for you. But I think like um, I'm not gonna provide like conclusive answer. I just want to
Okay.
expand on what Kuru has already done, and
Okay.
maybe give another angle as to
Mm,
some of the questions that was raised. Is about how do you operationalize the incredible vision you just laid out. That's the
mm,
question. That's how I take our friends from the Gambia,
mm,
his questions. Like, how do we operationalize unity? Yes, okay, we
mm,
buy your vision, we get your vision, but vision is not in itself by itself self-executed. So it takes steps and actions. And but I'm not gonna say how can I have I'm of the view that you can never in reality figure out all the steps you need to get to unity,
mm,
but you
mm,
have to figure out as far as you can to get to
mm,
unity. So one of the
mm,
things that I think Kuru slightly, I'm going to diverge from Kuru on this one. The debate at the time of independence, the war for independence or the fight for independence, the debate was, should we get instant unity? Like, should we establish an African unity government and every independent nation, as they get the independence, they just join? Or should we do a
mm,
gradual one? So this thing has been debated for over 40, 50 years among
mm,
African elites. What course? The course we took is the slow one, which Kuru just advocated.
mm,
So it's not. So at the time, it sounded very efficient and effective to come together and form uh, the best the best unity form that we can have. But a united government of Africa was not possible because of this diversions of different corners of Africa. Some people were not sure or nervous about, just abdicating their sovereignty so quickly to an African unity. But now we have 50 years of experience of, like, understanding how that cost us, how that cost Africa, how that cost individual African countries. Like say, countries with aspiration for, economic welfare, they're struggling. Countries with aspiration for social welfare struggling because of the impediment that stands in the way of listening. But if we have had that decision to unite instantly and figure out how to make sense of the unity as a process, like the US approach. So I'm talking about the US method, which is they decided to come together as a United States of America, the 13 states in their founding, uh, despite all the problems and all and then they decided, let's figure out all these problems later on, but first let's come together. So to me, I'm of the view, like, right now at this stage, the gradual approach, we've already tried it, is not necessarily the best. So, but I don't mean to say that my method or this method is the best approach, that Kuru's suggestion is not the best approach. I'm just saying that as a choice right now, if you were to give me a choice, I would choose however imperfect the African unity would be, a united state of Africa or a united African government states, whatever terminology that would be used to bring to that. That's the approach I would go for, how to go instantly. Now, the more serious issue is, this is, a choice, a binary choice, but the more serious issue is, how do we operationalize on the ground level in South Africa, in the Gambia, Ghana, Ethiopia? How do you operationalize this unity process at a country level? To me, like, the first and most important thing that we need to do that we haven't done in a more forceful way is the democratization of countries. When we say democratization, it's not election. I'm not talking about election. When I say democratization, is the empowerment of the people. So that we can, so governments are formed by the people, for the people. That approach, so that we increase the participations of Africans in the affairs, their political, social, economic affairs, and then that increases the vibrancy of nations, and that brings to the surface, to the top, those personalities and those characters that respect and value African cultures, African tradition, African aspirations, the aspiration of the individual nations. So democratization that respects the principle that power emerges, power comes from the people, that the people's concern is paramount at the highest level of decision making, or at the highest level of leadership in any country, in any nation, in any area. It does, and I'm not even talking about just democratization at the country level, democratization at the district level, county levels, where communities determine the kind of the course of action in their educations, the course of action in the economy and politics, within the given resources, even within the limited resources they have. We have, like, say, 1,000 times less resources in our community than that community would have in Europe. But within that small resource, we should have the ability to determine and decide how to. So democratization is good because it empowers a lot of Africans that are now disempowered. Billions, millions and billions of Africans that are going to make a decision, be part of the decision process, and the decision to unite, the decision to forge ahead, whatever it is that is critical to them becomes to the surface. I think that's one thing that I would suggest that is immediate, is necessary. I
I
know we have elections in Africa, but we have to believe in democracy. We have to believe in the power, and then that belief must be operationalized. I think
I have one. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, sorry, sorry. I have one thing that I want to ask you,
Yeah.
Ezra, just in that point before we move on.
Yeah.
That in Africa right now we have this. You're talking about creating that government, but in Africa right now we have this small, for example, EAC, right? East African Community. We have
Yes.
like ECOWAS. We have all these things, and some of them they're not even like doing well when you look at them. I mean, that unity that they're trying to create in like a regional unity. What do you think about? Because I feel like if we run to creating a governance that it's gonna, like it's United States of Africa, then what about this small movement that they are still not effective? What about strengthening what we do have and then at the end of the day, bringing back all these four different parts together to be to one and to try to strengthen that. What is your idea for that?
I think that's the thing. Like we chose that path over the past 50 years. The path that you are talking about, we have chosen that path. So they decided, leaders in the 50s and I think in the 60s and the 70s decided that is the best course of African unity at that moment. I'm looking back and saying, you know what? The experience tells me it's not sufficient. So let's look at ECOWAS. ECOWAS is one of the best operationalized regional grouping. And having had a part of my life spent in ECOWAS region, I have at least intimate understanding of how ECOWAS operates. And there's a lot of success that has emerged as a result of ECOWAS. It's economic success and political success. And I don't want to downplay that success that they have had. And some of the most democratic experiment on democracy happen in the ECOWAS region. And Ghana would be one of the famous one. Nigeria is another one. And through ECOWAS, Nigeria moved away from an era of coup d'etats. Now it's one of the most solidly grounded democratic states. And then I think the Gambia is also one of them. Like, has been. Senegal is an example. But good things aside, and look at the troubles that West Africa suffers. The troubles West Africa suffers. In Mali, in Niger, in Burkina Faso, and Ivory Coast was slightly troubled, but I think it's back on course. But even when these countries are not troubled by, let's say, major conflicts, tensions, and coup d'etats, these countries also suffer from economic and political exploitations. I mean, you look at the slavery cases that and cocoa farms in Congo and not Congo, sorry, in Ivory Coast and Ghana. And I'm sure there's even people who are intimately aware of the region. You look at from Liberia to Sierra Leone, the resources they have and how it is difficult for these countries to use these resources. So why am I raising all of these things is to point out regional grouping sometimes can benefit and has benefited, but they have reached a limit where we cannot speak to France and say, like, you're meddling in Africa, must stop. You can support Africa, and we have historical relationship from our colonial past. We recognize that it is important that we share languages with African people, but like ECOWAS is not having the muscle to stop coup d'etats from happening, like in places like Guinea Conakry, and that's there are places where poverty is staple food in part of West Africa. And you look at Niger that is struggling from all sort of ills, in addition to climate crisis, from the expanding Sahara Desert. So with Africa unity, that with African government coming together, you are bringing a new set of forces that regional forces cannot achieve. And it's not to eject. I don't propose this government with a view that this is my personal view, with a view for retribution, for colonial retribution of slavery, retribution of historical injustices. I propose this from the perspective of building a better world order. World is worse off because Africa is not together. The world is in crisis, climate crisis, political crisis, economic crisis, inequality issues that you see everywhere else. I think it's like, some amount of faith comes from the injustices of Africa. If we have an Africa that's just and one, just and united, I think chances are the world will be that much better off. And I think the people in power always struggle to understand and appreciate this because they are the construct of the colonial mind, and they can't see past this. So that's the thing. So I don't know if I have answered your questions, Mika, but the other one I want to bring in this, sorry for the long answer, but I want to bring in the historical context that is important here, and your the question that was raised about that is critical. But I cannot answer in full. The question is so big that it requires a lot of time. But the one thing I can tell you is that it's a bad idea for Africa to go back in history.
Yeah,
You remember
definitely.
the story of Lot,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
in the Bible?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
sorry, like,
Yes.
if you guys are Muslim, sometimes some of our reference, if you're not, so it's not, I'm not preaching, guys, but the story is so relevant. I remember,
No.
like,
Because yeah.
so Lot and his wife and family was asked to leave Sodom and Gomorrah, right? And then the instruction was to never look back. And his wife, I think, looked back and
Yeah.
then got
Exactly.
frozen solid, right? That's that story,
Big
right?
time. Big
To me,
time.
sometimes you have to be careful not to look back to history like that. It's like history is like that. History by its nature is incomplete. You can never have a full history. Even if you have a full account of history, you can never have a full account of history. If you think you have a full account of history, because history by its nature is impossible to really fully understand context, senses, and
Yeah.
all of this. So what do? Is that you recognize history, you appreciate history to the best of your ability, and then use that to inform your futures. So to the extent that history can inform the future, then we look at it. To the extent that it has a link to the future and the present that we have, we try to understand it. But to really get stuck in, like, because that's the thing that Africans have been struggling for the past 50 years. Like, these Westerners must pay this. No, that's not the African way. Retribution, and there's this, I don't think it's an African culture. It's not in our tradition. We have historical injustices, we have historical problems, but I think Africa has to move past from that, look at history to the best of our ability, but use it to inform our actions, our thinking, our thoughts, and moving forward, but in a very balanced way. So we look at slavery and then say, you know what? The Westerners exploited Black people, and that's
What
part
can
of
we
the history.
do not to
But
let that
also,
happen again?
but also, African people were responsible for selling these people too. That's part of the history.
Yeah.
So we cannot be ashamed to look at that.
Both
So
sides. Yeah.
we had a part in colonial power. We had a part in slavery. It's not like Africans are absolved of responsibility for either acting or enacting. So history has that kind of dynamics to it. So that aside, that dynamics aside, to what extent that is relevant today in the future. Let me give you one historical anecdote, for example. In the middle of the Congo, before the Belgian emperor, what's name, Leopold, figured it out, there was a secret. There was a secret kingdom. I don't know even this. I would call it a kingdom. It was a democratic kingdom. So it was probably, I would call it a republic. There was a secret republic that tried for centuries to hide its existence, but was known to be famously known at the time in those days. Or there's this republic in the heart of the Congo, like the Equatorial Forest, that had a system of government, of participation of these people, and had judiciary, had the executive branch, and then I think they had the parliamentary system the way we recognize it today. And King Leopold was on a mission. I think from, if I'm accurate, if I remember correctly, it took him years and probably decades to discover them, to find them, because they did a very good job of so they had intelligence forces inside that republic, where they would go out of their republic, out into the broader Congo system, and disseminating misinformation about the location of the place. So for a long time, people didn't know where it was, because there was a lot of, they made sure people didn't know where it was. So this story, I found it in reading the story of a book authored by the ghost of Leopard. The title of the book is called The Ghost of Leopard, written about his misadventure and adventure in Congo. And that story, I found this anecdotal information. This is one example. We look back to the history and look at this. Oh, we used to have democracy. And then I'm sure like Kuru would agree with me on this one. The story of
Mhm.
the Gada system that has been
Mhm.
protected for centuries, that still exists in Borona, in southern part of Ethiopia. There's a called a Gada system that has 600 years of democratic systems.
Mhm.
That
Mhm. Mhm.
African type of democracy.
Mhm.
Anyways, sorry, I have I've gone too far and given an
Yeah, yeah.
extended answer,
No,
but I
that's a
hope it
very
helps.
good That's a very good point that you raised, Israel. I
Yes.
just want to point out that before anything else, we need to start with forgiveness, for example, because we need healing first, right? Before anything else, so
Yes.
that we can go forward. Okay, we don't we take lessons from the past. We don't linger there, so we go forward. Okay, so that's where the vision comes. Okay, so like, what are our common visions? We need to set them. So that's the way we go forward, and then how we design anything else, like the policies in all the economic policies or the political policies that we design, has to be on the existing knowledge that we already have. The existing, I mean, I'm sure every culture, every institution, every traditional institution has its own um uh, sets of values, right? That can add to the betterment of any society. So what I'm saying is, like, before we design anything, we first need to consider, like, what is there before exporting any ideas from abroad and whatever. So we need to say, like, okay, what is being working there? What has been okay? We need to do a research, like, what is being really effective in that community. Is that community really gelling? Is that really working? Stuff like that, right? So first we need to get an understanding of our society. Do we really know our society?
No, we don't. No.
Do we really know our people? The way of
We
life,
don't.
are we respecting that? So first we need to respect that, and after that we can, design a system that combines, take like the philosophy of Mendemer, for example, and it says, like, take the best from everything else and add it. Okay, so instead of, like, saying, oh, this is not going to work because this is, no, 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 no. First, yeah, you need to understand the psychological makeup of the people itself. So then create a system that benefits those people, right? And then you take that like as a prototype, and then you take that, and then you actually experiment, and then you take the best out of that, and then you iterate, and also you make that the best version of itself, and then after that you can create a system that benefits the whole society, the whole continent at the end. So that's just what I want to say. And
Can I add
All
this?
right.
Can I add this
yeah.
about Maddamer? Maddamer,
Uh,
sorry, sorry. Maddamer, the idea of Maddamer is an incredible idea, right? Indigenous idea, indigenous law. I think that's what Kuru is saying. I think we could do a lot of them. Like Ubuntu is another one in Africa, and another philosophy, very simple but very powerful. It vibrates in part of southern and central and eastern part of Africa. So we have, these traditional and cultural things that are like that are really under, like, so we need to. So Madama is an example. It's one of
Yeah,
the things that
yeah.
needs to be put forward, but it is never obviously not the only one, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I wanna give an opportunity to Ezra as well. Ezra, I've been here waiting for a while. Um,
Yes, Mika and the two professors there. Very nice
oh yeah,
contribution. Nice
I think
contributions, and
I,
I've,
I think the other Ezra deserved to be professor too. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
been
definitely.
yeah, we have got two professors, here.
yeah. We have here two professors in Swahili Nation. Yeah.
Yeah,
hmm
and I've been, capturing this data and listening and hearing everyone's point, and it's I've been learning from this philosophy, the Medema, and a lot of things that you've done today on this presentation. And yeah, on the going back to the question, like on this slide, I saw like about the philosophy, which is I also agree with that in terms of the philosophy, and what Kuru just said now about the psychological and the makeup of a country as well, and then the continent. Those are the things that sometimes divide us in terms of countries running and functioning well as well, because there isn't really a psychological understanding of the people our leaders are leading as well. Hence, a disconnect between leaders and the communities on the ground. Um, and going back to the question of how do we get everyone involved, I think some of the answers, there isn't really a single answer per se to say this is the answer, this is the way. But all the contributions, this the psychological, the Medima, Ubuntu, they all resonate to how we need to combine and build a better Africa. And looking at there's just so many things. Yeah, that was just uh, putting points, but I will try to
The floor
just
is yours.
yeah. I'm just gonna just shoot quickly.
Yeah, yeah. Just
Um,
take your
go,
time.
go. Yeah, I'm looking at the continent in terms of our countries and stuff. I think Mika, you also mentioned something about the strengths of each country. I think we do need that SWOT analysis. We all know about SWOT analysis, the strength, weaknesses, threats, opportunities of each countries, and also the regional blocks. Then we'll be able to see where are the strengths. If you're looking at SADC, which is the southern part, if you're looking the eastern community, or looking at ECOWAS, or even the Arabic one up in the north, if they feel they want to be part of, and I think they also want to be part
Yes, they
of, because
want
some
to.
people say it's not Africa, but I think it's still Africa.
Mm,
They just have a different culture to how we are, and especially
mm,
looking at somebody mentioned the Muslim community in our continent having a lot of them, so it also includes
mm,
them, because even if you look at
mm,
only sub-Saharan Africa, it's still there's
mm.
still a lot of them in that region. So
Exactly.
yeah, and looking at all the blocks, first we can look at regional, the blocks,
Mm,
their strengths, what do they have, what minerals do they have, and the skill
mm,
base they have. For example, you talked about nuclear. South Africa has a nuclear power station, and they are planning to build more. They wanted, but then it was too expensive. They stopped. But we do
mm,
have a power station in next to Cape Town, which has been running for
mm,
almost 40 years now. And they even
mm,
increased their lifespan to another 20 years, because normally it's like 50 years. Most person is like 40, 50 years lifespan, and they're
mm,
planning to build more. And South Africa had nuclear weapons as well, and but they stopped
mm,
it. South Africa just opted to voluntarily to say we're not gonna
mm,
continue doing nuclear research. They still do. There is
mm,
nuclear research, but not in terms of
mm.
weaponry and all that other things.
Yeah.
The
Mm,
technology is still there, but it's just a matter of who's gonna take it, because obviously it's a bit of an expensive. But nuclear, it's a
mm,
good opportunity. I think if you're looking at
mm.
green power state, I mean, looking at the green energy now in
Yeah.
the space of solar, wind, of which it also
Mm,
includes what do you call this, nuclear. As much as there's always concern, because nuclear, the problem is I'm working in a power industry, but I'm not really a power engineer. I'm in the
yeah.
tech space. I'm the IT there. So what happened is
Mm,
it's expensive to construct and everything, because there's so many laws, so many things you to consider, and also environmental
mm,
assessment studies that need to be put in place before you can build a power station,
yeah.
for example. So, but once you run it, it's one of the most efficient power stations.
Yeah.
We have a lot of coal power station here in the country, but it doesn't come close to nuclear, because even in Europe, look at France. They're one of the
Uranium.
powerhouse in terms of nuclear
Mm.
power stations. They're powering even Germany with their energy there. And
Mm,
yeah, things like that. We look at the strengths. We look at, okay, who has uranium in the continent? We know Namibia has, South Africa has, Tanzania
Niger.
has, Chad, Niger. They're
yeah.
up there. They also have. And if we want to
Mm,
build those things, I think it's about knowledge sharing as well. That's where, when we're talking
yes.
about the regional blocks, the strengths, who has what? Maybe the Arabs might bring
Mm,
something that we don't have down here in the South, Saharan Africa,
mm,
and then East
mm,
Africa might have Kenya might have maybe bringing more tech innovations as well, and you know,
Mm.
and I think we also need to do a sort of analysis before. Obviously, we're talking about the integration of different countries
Mm.
and look at our
Mm.
strengths and look at obviously now once we know this is our strength, we have this, we have this, we don't have this, they have that, and then we can now
Mm.
look who can do what effectively,
Exactly.
So
Wow.
and yeah, once we know that these people can do this, they master this part of technology, whatever, then we can know that, okay, for most Africans, if they're looking for nuclear, now most of us will be going to France to go and buy the technology, or Russians will be going to those two nations, which are mostly running, they have a lot of expertise in terms of nuclear power stations. Instead, when we know that, okay, so and so has this technology, let's go and speak to him, let's consult with him. What skill base does he have that he can put, and how many skill base that we need to develop in our country to meet our country's needs going forward? Because it's not just about building something, it's also about how
Mm.
what legacy it leaves behind for the
Mhm.
community once they have that infrastructure,
Yes.
and how do they develop themselves going forward. It's like a school is one example of why a school is built. If people can understand why a school is built, first of all, when you
Mm.
know the foundation of education, the school is it's an investment for any government, so that people can learn, obviously, and also come and contribute in the future to their nation. So things like that. Obviously, we have to do the sort of analysis. Then once we know that, okay, this is our weaknesses, this is what we need to do. Okay, obviously a plan of action in terms of how do we build systems that are going to work in our favor in terms of developing the skill base. Because one of the things we say, there's also people who graduate but not working. The only problem with us as Africans is because there isn't that this, like, for example, if you're going to do nuclear physics or something in Africa, you have a PhD, chances of you progressing and getting the skill, the knowledge that you really require, not just book knowledge but the experimental knowledge as well. Most people end up leaving, going to contribute to the US, going to contribute in Europe
Yeah.
because of such things. But it's not that Africa doesn't have those things. And there are other courses that are not offered in our continent because of, or it might be offered in Egypt, but not be offered in South Africa or Tanzania or Ethiopia.
Mm.
Yeah.
So things like that, sharing to know, okay, which universities have what. Those are the things. The knowledge sharing is also one of the things that will help us when we're trying to integrate regional blocks or even countries to share knowledge in terms of how do they do this in this country, or they have this, but we need to have a skill set that is going to meet this need. For example,
Mm.
when I look at
Mm.
apartheid South Africa, I can make an example of my country. Apartheid South Africa, when the white government was in power, do you know the model they use for their development? It's not that the Europeans came with knowledge, most of them. They also asked for technology. The apartheid government was sponsored to succeed by the powers that be then, or that still are. So whenever they had a project, when they were building, for example, the apartheid government system was very smart. They looked at what built their nation, what would make their nation, even if they get sanctioned, they still operated. Do you know why? They looked at all the things that they need in the country. They look at
Mm.
themselves. What do they have?
Mm.
They build cement companies. They build steel companies. All those things that really, when you want to build something, you don't. If you have sanctions, you can't go to another country and buy that cement. But when you
Yeah.
have it
Yeah.
manufactured in your country, you can still do it yourself.
Mm.
When they look
Exactly.
at, we don't have oil in the country, we have gas and we have a lot of coal. And then they said, no, we'll build coal power stations. We'll use coal to build to make to produce diesel and petrol. That's where Sasol came into effect. But they also went to look for those knowledge. They send people, and when they send people, it's knowledge sharing. Whenever we send someone to do big projects in our continent, we need to have a lot of our people learning, not this thing of Chinese just bring people and saying, hey, there isn't really a lot of skilled people. Yes, we understand the project needs to move forward, but we need to have a mentorship where our people are also learning how the projects are being run. For example, if they say there isn't really a project manager for, let's say, a rail network. I know Tanzania, you now building a lot of rail there. If they're saying there isn't really enough project managers, it's not that they are not enough. They should say there is not enough experience in that field. Yes, we understand that. But okay, give our people who have a
Mm.
lot of graduates, or people with masters, whatever, to also come and play a role and contribute there and learn as well. So that even when that person is
Mm.
gone, but there is something that was left in terms of knowledge in the country besides the infrastructure. That's why some
mm,
countries they build infrastructure, but it never lasts because there isn't really the know-how to maintain it going forward, and people don't really feel
mm,
part of it because it's something that was built maybe for a specific place. So
mm,
things like that, where when we are building projects, we need to know if we're building power stations, we're building rail, we need to have a skill set that is going to help us to invest in those skill sets to say, okay, if we're going to need drivers, we're going to need train the maintenance. The trains need to be maintained, whether it's cargo or commuting for the people. You still need you're going to need drivers. You're going to need maintenance of those trains. And the Chinese, you cannot go be running to the Chinese to go and ask for those people to come and fix for us. We need to have the knowledge being left behind. The infrastructure, when it remains here, the people must also remain here to know to acquire those skills and go for and maintain it and run it. Because if you look at
Mhm.
all these countries that we're looking at that are successful, your South Korea, you're in South Korea, you should know, in terms of they don't have minerals, but their
mm,
target, they looked at knowledge, innovation, and technology, and they're
mm,
selling knowledge. They are a knowledge economy. Because
mm,
knowledge economy, you don't rely on the resources. You don't really make your
mm,
resources as your main source of income of your, you know.
no,
So you know that you can
mm,
always sell technology. They are selling technology to the world. We are buying now. If you're trying to build a mine, you might be buying a
mm,
Hyundai machinery or a tipper or whatever from
mm,
South Korea. They. So,
mm,
but anyway, so yeah, I was just talking about that, like SWOT analysis of how we want to unite, looking at our
mm,
countries, what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, and
Mm.
the ideology. Once we know that this is our weakness, this is our strength, then we can go back to communities because we need to sell the idea to the people. Eventually, someone has to go
Yeah.
and speak to the people because there are people who, like now, this platform. I mean, YouTube. It's just a. Some people might say it's just for the guys that are professionals that are working, that have business, who can
mm,
afford that, and just maybe students on campus. Some of them are connecting, I'm sure. So, but we need to reach the men on the ground. We still have a lot of people living in rural areas who sees internet as a luxury. You understand?
mm,
So building
Mm.
more, when we look at those things, we need to go sell these ideas to our communities to say, like for example, if we are building a rail, maybe it's from Dodoma to Dar es Salaam, for example, from the
yeah,
capital to the
mm,
financial capital, may say so. If you're building
mm.
that rail, the
Are you
communities
sure
in
you're not
between,
Tanzanian?
Yeah, I thought
man.
so too.
Good examples. There's many examples because I look into projects. I look at a lot of projects that are happening in the continent. So I see how
Yes, like,
everything.
mm,
So anyway,
mm,
yeah,
Mm.
you look at the communities that train will be passing, how much you can leverage, how much because those are the common things that we need to tell the people. Why do we need the
mm,
train here? Because that's why some people might say, "Oh, this train just goes to die,
mm,
doesn't make anything to me, doesn't bring anything to
mm,
me." But a train
mm,
can mean a lot of things. Rail can mean trade, can mean if there's
mm,
farms around those areas in between where this person can make stations where there could be a dry ports where things could be
mm,
shipped out if there's a need for those things, you know. Because
mm,
many countries
mm,
that need food, there's something that we know that food will never run out of fashion. Can buy all the
mm,
technology, but without food, we cannot run anything. So
mm,
Yeah.
yeah, looking at such things where we look at the interests of the people, we tell them this and also because I think people unite more when they think there's something for them. That's just
mm,
the sad truth sometimes where what is it in for me? People ask those questions when you
mm,
come into those communities and say, we'll be building a road here, there'll be a bus terminal here, and then people are like, okay, and then
mm,
and then when you're telling them we're trying to do an intra trade with the neighboring country or whatever,
mm,
there'll be those things, and people might think,
mm,
what is it in for me? So once we also look at our common interest as a continent. Our common
mm.
interest is economically we are behind, and we are not happy
Mhm.
with those things. We're not happy. Those are the things
Exactly.
that we need to
Yeah.
be looking at, to look at the economic
Mm,
part of it. To when we were telling the people that economically we are not where we know we are supposed to be.
mm, mm,
So out of our
Mm.
common interest, these are the things. If we are trading, if I'm trading with Tanzania or I'm trading with Ethiopia, I'm buying Ethiopian coffee, I'm supporting
mm,
business. If I'm buying a Kenyan tea, I'm supporting an
mm.
African business out there, and to understand
Exactly.
Yeah, because I think also we don't know each other. What's in our countries? We don't, some
Mm.
countries we don't even know what do they have. Some people they
Yeah.
eat chocolate. I think Ezra mentioned something about the cocoa from Ivory Coast and Ghana. How much they produce for
Ghana.
the world, not for Africa, for the world.
Mhm.
How much comes from those two nations alone?
Is it
And
70? Is it 70 or
I think
80%?
around there, yeah, around there,
Just two
because
of
I think
Wow.
just the two countries. Yeah.
that's just the two
Wow.
countries. Imagine, you
Imagine we
know.
have even
Look,
cocoa
I
in
always say
Korea
this.
from Ghana.
Yeah, yeah. I
Ghana,
always say
Ghana
this.
chocolate,
If
for example.
people, if let's say France had the resources of the
Mm.
Congo, right? Those exclusive resources that you need for the technologies that power the world. If France was the one that owned it, you can imagine how much richer France would be.
Wow.
Mm.
Because you look at, let's say, countries like, you look at Canada. People think Canada's economy is, some of its economy depends on very primary resources, primary materials, like raw materials. But Canada makes more money out of its raw materials than African countries make. So that there's this notion that African countries must industrialize to really benefit from. It's not always entirely true. It's all about the ability to bargain. Bargaining power is power. But by being small and weak nations, our ability to bargain for the resources that we have, and we like, if like coffee, like Starbucks makes $5 billion from coffee, and at
Yeah.
least claiming to
We
be a coffee
spoke about
company.
it. Yeah.
But Ethiopia barely makes $1 billion out of coffee. But the brand of coffee, the name coffee, the history of coffee, has its roots in Ethiopia, and in a place called Kaffa. And you can still go to Kaffa. The best coffee in the world is not even planted by people. It's planted by God or by
Exactly.
nature, if you don't believe in God. But like, what I mean is that, like, uh, so the formula is, in the way the world is run and organized, is around exploitations. It's about winner take all. It's about, so uh, some of the ideas Ezra's suggestion, it's weird to say for me to say Ezra, but like some of the ideas Ezra suggested, uh, it is it's going to run into that resistance, what I call resistance. When you do SWOT analysis, another thing that you do is resistance analysis. You have to have a spectrum of resistance, like, they call it, I think it's, if I remember correctly, the technical term is a resistance spectrum. So you put in a spectrum the most extreme resistance to the least resistance and choose how to handle them, one of the resistance that you're going to hear come back from is that the way the world economy, however big the economy of the world is, it's not as big as it could be. And the reason is not as big as it could be because it's controlled by a certain few forces that tend to uh, depend on the benefits that they extract from it at the moment, but they can't envision and then visualize a much more encompassing and much, like, they can't envision twice the size of the world economy. They can't. It's not in their psychology. It's not in their system. So, Israel dropped. So, and anyways, so you get my point. So we need to really think about, like, as we think about putting this together, the resistance is going to be serious, and whether it's a logical kind of resistance, that's not the point, but it's resistance nevertheless. And somebody's going to prevent Tanzania from building its nuclear energy ambition. Somebody's going to prevent Ethiopia from building on its hydro dam, and environmental, what you call ecologically sound investment it
That's
wants
why
to
this.
do. So yeah.
That's why this I think it will be very, like, to some extent it will be easy for us to, not really, but it will be easy for us to move on and to achieve if we come together and we are united. If we
Yes.
have that unity in Africa, then we can stand together, not as a country that, oh, we are going to build this, no, but as Africa. So we are gonna stand for this because this is good for our people, it's good for Africa, and what is good here, as you said, it's good for everybody.
Yes.
But right now, because each country, they're standing for themselves pretty much, so it's kind of, it become weak because international government, let's say like the the World Bank or somebody out there be like, you know what, we're just gonna put sanction on you. We're not gonna give you, what we have been giving you for the past 50 years. And if you keep doing this, you
Yes.
either do it or we're gonna cut you off from these international lines. And so you become really weak, and you are the only ones that are like, okay, yes. But if all Africa come together and we have all these mega projects, I've done reaction on mega projects that are happening in Ethiopia, mega projects that happen in Tanzania and some other parts of the world, Kenya, all these if we are one, if we're united and we go through this, how are you going to put sanction on all African countries? How are you going to do that? Yeah, you're not going to do that, because that is dangerous for your own economy at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
That's why this is urgent call, just like, Professor Kuru said in his presentation, that this is the urgent call for African unity. Because I feel like the
Yes.
concerns that Ezra, you're saying, it's really important. And one of the ways that we can actually, get away from it is if we become one and we have that power as an African nations. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
we are one and we have that power together. We stand together. We speak about that. No, we are all determined. We all have the same goal, and this is what we want to achieve. One for our people. It's gonna be, yeah, we kind of see
Yeah.
difference.
I think like this.
If I
Mika,
can
Sorry,
add
Colin.
there,
Sorry. Sorry. Go ahead.
Mika.
if I can
Yes,
add
yes.
there of what Ezra said, and you what you just said now. Obviously, the economic resistance will always be there. I mean, even you look at how projects are being hijacked. I mean, look at the ECOWAS currency, how it was also hijacked by France, and I don't know which other African country was also involved. I kind of forgot the article. Where there was now a war where they now, because France intervened and wanted to be involved in terms of the printing of the money and the currency, the actual currency, right? So
Yeah.
there was now a division where now they'll say now the French speaking countries in Africa. So now that's how you fight now as black people. It's now the French speaking countries, they don't want to, because now they're looking at the biggest economy in ECOWAS is obviously Nigeria, which is on the
Yeah,
ECOWAS region, and it's an English speaking
exactly.
country, and there are very few English speaking countries in the West. Remember, most
Mhm.
of them they
Yeah.
are French colonies, they're former
French,
French colonies.
French speakers. Yeah.
So
I think the Gambia, Ghana, and Nigeria. Those are
yeah, I
the
think there's
three.
three, right? Yeah,
Yeah, three. Yeah. I
yeah,
think.
there are three.
Yeah.
Really.
Three. Yeah.
So like this project, if you say if we are united to say we'll sponsor also our project, I mean like what you said, Mika, where we sponsor each
Mm,
other's projects. When we know that if it's
mm,
electricity, we're all going to benefit from that electricity. It's not going to be just for maybe one country.
yeah,
When so that
yeah,
people can know that, oh, so my neighbor is also providing me electricity. I'm also providing him this.
mm,
So in such a way that we won't be all the problem is now countries are going to the World Bank, the IFCs, the all this multinational or international financiers to go borrow money. While there's a neighbor who can say, okay, how much do you have, for example? Look at the big projects in the Inga projects in Congo. Those are they carry the biggest hydro potential nowhere else. I mean, we can challenge the Chinese in terms of their hydro, power in terms of what they have, the water sources they have, right?
mm.
But look
That's
at
right.
them. There's lack of funding, but this is a talk of 70s. They've been talking about the same thing, by building more hydro in the Congo to power the continent and share the electricity. Such project we
Mm,
need to be governments should be uniting. For example, saying Central Africa, Southern Africa, guys, how much do you have? Kenya,
yeah,
Tanzania might say I've got $2 billion. So and so can Ethiopia can say I've got 3 billion. So it can come and say I've got this. And then how much is the project? How
mm,
much can we pay for this project? How much can we do? We know that there will
yeah.
be resistance. Obviously, there will be those who will try
Ex-
to sabotage the
yeah,
project.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Those are the things that
But
we
we
need to
know
know.
how
Those are the
much.
risk factors. Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
but we know how much countries, we know all these countries, how much they'll be benefiting from that project that we are doing. We will
Definitely.
be able even to fund ourselves to some extent. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
Like,
Definitely.
because it's not just you supporting me, but actually supporting yourself. Because what I have, you'll be able to use
Benefit.
it as well,
Yeah.
and yeah, you'll be able to benefit, yeah, from it.
Wow.
I'm sorry for cutting it out.
Guys, I know
I
now.
think
I just
Professor
want
Kuru
to point
wanted to
out
say
this.
something.
Yeah, I just want to point out like this is really good, man. I mean, I
Mm,
really, really,
mm,
really appreciate like this panel, right? Because
mm,
like now what the problem with us is ignorance. One ignorance, right?
mm,
Because we really don't know
mm.
nothing about like our continent, right?
Yes,
If
yes,
it
yes.
wasn't for Israel from South Africa, right?
Mm,
Yeah, I
mm,
wouldn't know nothing about South Africa and what is really happening there. So I'll only be
mm,
focusing on myself, like in Ethiopia, whatever, right? So
mm,
this is really very important, and the way to go forward is we need to really change our thinking, right? Our state of
mm,
mind, like
mm,
that needs to change. And instead of
mm,
just like thinking about like this specific region or whatever, let's think about like
mm,
broadly, right? So this is a
mm,
very, I really appreciate this panel, man. I just want to point
mm.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I just wanted to also touch on what you were saying, Mika, about
Mm,
sanctions,
mm, mm,
about our leaders in Africa, and how I think I was alluding to it yesterday about
mm.
Abiy Ahmed and how they're threatening him with
Yeah,
so
yeah.
many. Yeah. So the issue also is that some of our leaders in Africa, they are
Mm,
compromised. If it's
mm,
not even our leaders, our political, their opponents can be easily compromised by outsiders, to really, slow down the wheels of progress on the continent. So that's also a
mm,
huge issue. If you're trying to get together and say, what, this person is going to be
mm,
sanctioned. Why can't we all come together and just make sure that
mm,
we have enough
mm,
resources? So we'll make sure that if they say you're not going to get this, this country has this, so we don't need people.
mm.
Like, that way you'll see how smoothly things will work out. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, our leaders,
Mm,
oftentimes they are at odds with the population. So
mm,
this is also a serious issues that we need to look at, because if you
mm.
look at, for
Yeah.
instance, back in Ethiopia again, like with the dam issue, it's
Mm,
a great thing. Like you're
mm.
saying, maybe neighboring countries like even Sudan, interestingly,
Yeah.
might benefit. But
Mm,
you look at Egypt and Sudan, what's going on with
mm,
them with the dam issue. It's like, what the hell is going on? It's
mm.
easy to go to and
Yeah.
in Egypt and use them and say, what,
Mm,
let's make it difficult for these people to build this dam.
mm,
And
mm,
we are
mm,
all claiming that we're sharing the same continent. So how are we supposed to really
mm.
vindicate ourselves and unite if we
Yeah.
have compromised leaders?
Mm-hmm,
Mm,
mm-hmm,
I,
mm-hmm,
I, I
mm-hmm.
think,
that's
Banjo, if just to answer you there, I mean, you see what you just mentioned now. It's a very important point in terms of projects being financed from externally. Like now, Egypt will not, even if they threaten to destroy the Grand Renaissance Dam there in Ethiopia, they also still
They won't. They won't.
they won because the Chinese funded that project, and they're also owing the Chinese money. So it's
Actually,
a
it's
catch
funded by
22 for
Ethiopians.
everyone. It's like, what do?
Actually, it's
You
funded by
go destroy
Ethiopians.
something, you'll be punished as well. The Chinese will not
mm,
like it
mm,
because they're putting a lot of billions into that project, and it's
Ezra,
far for them to
correction. You have to,
mm,
this is a
You
major
mean
correction. The dam is fully funded by Ethiopians. Is
but
all because Ethiopia could not find any funding. Everybody turned it back on Ethiopia when they sought
okay?
funding, so they decided to fund it. Ethiopian population, Ethiopian government is funding the close to $5 billion cost of the dam. So I don't. Sorry
okay,
to interrupt.
I didn't know that. I thought there was some money that
mm.
was borrowed from China.
From
There-
China? No,
as
Not
far
no.
as I know,
not for
there
the
is
dam.
some money that came from China as well.
And this is
But
As
this
far as
most
I
is
know,
of
there
very,
was
the
some money that was borrowed. As much as, yes, you might be, there might be you might be using your own with your tax base to fund it with your government, but government has put an insurance on some of the loans because it's a big project
Yeah.
for the government,
But
and the money.
it doesn't weaken your point. The fact that it's funded by Ethiopians still makes it strong because now the whole population of Ethiopia is against you if you're about to do something about it. So one of the things that
Mm.
keeps Egypt at bay and those powers that be at bay is the fact that this dam is almost untouchable, and you don't
Yeah.
see Western powers using it as a leverage anymore because they know
Yeah.
and realize it touches nerve. So they decided to use
Yeah.
Imagine,
another leverage,
They have
which is
nothing
Tigray.
to benefit. That's why if it was
Yeah.
funded by
imagine.
them, they were gonna be involved.
Yeah. Imagine. And one of the thing why people are really fighting for that is because, people who give their money for that, like Ethiopians, local people, are people who like there are even people who don't have money, but they gave everything they can because they're hoping for the future, for the better
Yeah.
future of their country, their people, and they want to have electricity. But not only electricity that is going to come to Ethiopia or Africa, but also more than 12,000 jobs will be created, like really created
Wow.
from this project that is going on. So that is something that really huge, for people to have things that they can do and provide
Yeah.
for their families, but as well as for the Africa as a continent. And it's it's crazy, man. It's really
Yeah.
crazy. Like
And the
And
funny
it's
thing
really
is, like,
crazy.
each.
But
Okay.
I
Go ahead.
I also wanna point out just one thing before that. Somebody in the comments say, Egypt it's not Africa. No, Egypt is Africa as well, regardless of what's going on. Just that. We can
To
move
point
on.
it out.
Mm,
but also Egypt is Africa. That's true. But I'm
mm,
sure we all deal with Egyptians. But also, if you're on the continent, it's
mm.
better for your leader also to reflect that. For
Yes.
us, in quote unquote sub-Saharan Africa, most of our
Mm,
leaders, when if you look at listen to Abiy Ahmed speech,
yeah.
you will see
Mm.
you will hear, you don't speak Amharic, but you will hear Africa over and over
A
and
lot
over
of
and over.
Africa. Yeah.
Okay, so
Mm,
some of
mm,
these leaders, they really have to make up their minds. Especially, I mean, I'm
mm.
not going after North Africa, but they really, if
Yeah.
you're on the continent, be part of the continent. But if you're
Yes. Yes.
gonna,
I
why
feel
would
that.
you be upset over another country building a dam? That might
Mm,
potentially benefit you.
mm,
So is it the Nile? Then you have to talk and see how much water. I mean, I just don't get it. So
mm, mm.
it's just these leaders sometimes, and how
Yeah.
you identify yourself. You're part of the
Yourself.
continent? Are you, Arabian, or you're
Mm,
just indigenous African who happen to have Arabian ancestry? That's fine, but you have to really
mm,
make up your mind and see and ask yourself where you belong.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I just want to point
That's
out
so
one thing,
good.
right? It all
Mm,
comes to power. Not like
mm,
this, the power that we're talking about, like electricity or stuff like that, but like having power, right? So, for
mm,
example, the case with you, how you've raised the case with the dam, right? So it's not only the interest of the African people, but it's also the interest of the Arabian people, like the Saudi
mm,
Arabians and all these Arabic nations, because it's not
mm,
only the situation that is happening in Ethiopia does not only affect African, but also affects the whole region of the Arabian region, right? See, that's the broader context. That's the broader context, and then yeah, I mean, when you do that, some eyebrows will be raised,
mm,
so we should. I mean, hey, regardless, I mean, it comes down to what are we what are we standing for? That's
mm,
that's that's the that's the thing that we need to really figure out, right? For what are we standing for our people? You
mm.
know. So what are we standing for? I mean, that's the question that we need to ask ourselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, I mean, that's just the point that I want to make.
I
So
think
my
like
my question
one
is,
of the things. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go
my
ahead. Go ahead, please.
I just want you brothers to not forget it. Also, I'm not sure if because I've been coming in and out about
Mm,
it goes back to the Sanchong. I've been struggling to pronounce this word. So what
mm,
what um what do you do as a leader? Because what happened is most of our leaders are just it's like they put a pistol to their foreheads, and they know the truth, but they can't really speak.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Along with
Mhm.
because of so many issues, especially these threats that we have from the UN, the IMF
Mm,
and the World Bank. I think I
mm,
mentioned that yesterday. So how can they maneuver this incoming fires from outsiders when they speak their mind and they become, at odds with, the outside community?
I think like
Well,
one of the things that we need to do is we need to demystify the notion that a united Africa is a threat to anybody. It's not.
mm,
It's not a threat. I think
mm,
like a lot of people that are around the world, they run the world on the basis of a 20th century construct.
mm,
But in the 21st century construct that we hope to build, we
mm,
we have to articulate. we have to articulate these values, these African values that respect and values the the world that we are in, whether it is favorable to us or not. We have to demonstrate to the world that there should not be any fear from Africa coming together, that the benefit that they already have is going to multiply, not reduce. It's not,
mm,
so we're not organized around, Africa is not organized around exploitation the way the Western powers are. And
but
yes, we have powerful people, leaders that sing the tunes of the way the world is run. But that aside, the average African is not tuned around this notion of that Tanzania is better off by making Kenya weaker, by exploiting
mm,
Kenya. That's not how
mm,
Tanzania operates, and that's not how
yeah.
Africa operates. So, how do we demystify? How do you demystify this notion of of an Africa that comes together and an Africa that comes to ask tough questions of the world is danger to the way the world is organized around right now, the way the world economy is organized, so social order, political technology is organized. So we need to find a way to make it palatable.
For me,
And I think one of the way to, yeah, yes.
no, please finish. You can finish.
No, finish. I was only going to repeat the sentence. So go ahead.
Uh, yeah, for me, Ezra, I think the idea of united Africa is dangerous, and the reason why is because we never had united Africa up to
Yeah.
this point, and yet we are still standing. Like African countries has been struggling and fighting by their own. For example, just take an example of Ethiopia. You guys, you were never colonized. You guys, you fought. You fought so hard, blood, sweat, and tears to be where you are, not to allow Italians take over the nation, the country. That is just one country. That is just one people who they know what they want. They know how much they love their people, and they want to protect their country from from any intervention from outside. But you think about when Africa comes together, because the deals and the projects that have been made, maybe in Tanzania, Kenya, they're not even concerned, right? And what has been done in Kenya, other countries are not even concerned. But when you bring all these people together, that means you have different people with different minds, different intelligence, and whatever that we are going to decide is something that is good for the entire continent and our people. And that idea, not only me, but that idea, when you look from outside, like it's kind of like it taking opportunities away, because
Mhm.
when you come to you're coming to Tanzania, you want to make a deal with Tanzania. You're not just making a deal with Tanzania, but you're making a deal with Africa, right? Before you
Mhm.
just come and make a deal maybe with one leader, because that leader maybe is corrupted, and whatever deal it comes, like a lot of money comes like to his pocket, and he's making a deal about his country, literally like selling his country to to other people for his own benefit. But now, if you have a united Tanzania or united Africa, it means you are not just making a deal for this person, but you have to go through AU, like United Africa, in order to reach
Mhm.
to whatever that you want to make with this particular place. And that is not going to be easy. It's going to be a lot harder. It's going to be a lot difficult, and it's kind of scary. Like, I don't know if you understand what I'm
It
trying to
is.
say. Like, it's kind of
Oh,
Yeah,
scary,
yeah,
yeah,
that notion of coming
definitely.
together as one.
yeah.
It's kind of scary to other people who for many years have been getting away, just taking away, from the continent. You know what I mean?
Nika, I just want to add one point, right?
Mm,
So the United Nations. Let's take our example, right? The United Nations, right?
mm,
I think the United Nations, right? The
mm,
United Nations
mm,
Assembly.
mm,
I,
The
I, I
General
think
Assembly.
the General Assembly in their history, I don't think they have
mm,
been uh, have a meeting on Ethiopia. They had like 10 meetings on Ethiopia.
mm,
This I don't think they have they did that
In less than a
for
year.
other African countries, man. Huh?
mm.
So that's like, that's
Yeah.
really mind-boggling, right? Because you're doing
Mm,
something that is waking up Africa, right? That's we're doing something
Mm.
to something that was really working
Yeah.
means, right?
Uh.
So I mean, when you see
Mm.
that, I mean, you'd be like, okay, so that's why all
Africa is
the
waking up.
challenges, yeah,
No more
exactly,
opportunities.
exactly, because that's just, for example, let's take, okay, the prime minister, he
Mm.
gave three ministerial powers to the opposition party. Can you believe it?
Mm. Mm.
Before 25 years or 26 years, you never gonna
Mm.
hear this kind of stuff.
Mm.
You're never gonna hear this kind of stuff.
Mm.
He just gave power.
Mm.
That's the
Mm.
philosophy that he's trying to put there. You know, put out there.
Mm.
That he says like,
Mm.
together we stand together, right? Together we are
Mm.
powerful.
Mm.
So that's why like
Mm.
they are opposition parties. Three different opposition parties now have
Mm.
three ministerials in Ethiopia. This is really
Mm.
great, man.
Mm.
So this is the way to go forward. This is the way to go forward. And all the pressure that is being posed on us by the Americans right now is ridiculous, man. Ridiculous.
Mm.
It is amazing. It's amazing. I think,
But
yeah.
see, the thing about, like, you have to look at it from
Cause
this point of view.
okay.
Ethiopia has the benefit of, not being colonized, has the benefit of protecting and preserving certain African characteristics that have been lost through colonial adventures, and
Mm.
it's tapping into that. And people always look at it. It's like, I see it as a blessing in disguise. It's
Mm.
demonstrating to the world the civility,
Mm.
with determination, and like, I'm sure, like, from the perspective of Westerners, like, like,
Mm.
what's wrong with these Ethiopians? How come they don't get
Mm.
this? I mean, this like, it will come across as daft on their part, like, and then I'm sure the Egyptians are thinking, like, how come Ethiopians are not answering to the power that be like this? I mean, what do they
Mm.
have that makes them feel like they act like as if they are nuclear power, resisting
Mm.
to pressure of this I mean, in great magnitude. And it comes
Mm.
down to this very simple thing, like, the Ethiopian government is tapping into this very, very difficult to see thing, but
Mm.
this intangible power that exists, that we've managed to preserve knowingly, unknowingly, but through the our resistance to colonialism. I mean, I want to also push back a little bit on the notion that Africans
Mm.
actually fought, but it took us. I said this yesterday. It took us many years to get
Mm.
our independence, but it's not because we were not fighting.
Hmm.
I mean, I think, to me,
True.
like, the Zulu warriors that really, like, really scared the Jesus out of the British soldiers,
Mm.
and their
Mm.
adventure in South Africa gives you an idea of the kind of resistance that existed throughout Africa,
Mm.
even though they
Mm.
were being colonized. And
Mm.
so, yes, colonization, yes, they could declare victory, but the victory was hollow, was empty. It didn't
Mm.
last. And it didn't last
Mm.
not because, like, so I think, to me, I want to give credit to people,
Yeah.
even though by the term of loser or winner, they might have lost a couple of
Yeah.
battles here
Exactly.
and there,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
but
Mm.
ultimately, it needs to be
Yeah.
respected that, yeah,
Exactly.
it came, they were winning a war, but it took them a while.
Mm.
Look at it from that
Mm.
perspective.
Mm.
Africans
Mm.
were fighting colonialism. They didn't
Mm.
lose because they were colonized. It
Mm.
was a matter of time they were winning. Anyways, I don't know if
Mm.
that makes sense.
Exactly. I also wanna add to what our brother who left also said, um, because the other comments I see in the comment section, uh, that the unity in Africa. There's no. This is just my opinion, guys. You guys can share your opinion as well, but I think the only person to be blamed is us. We cannot blame anyone else when it comes to unity in Africa, that we don't have unity. Yes, we might think that they don't want us to be united, but who are they to let us be where we are right now, to have all these divisions that we have? I think we are responsible. We have to know that we are responsible of what is happening right now. And when it comes to unity, because there is nothing that, if we decide today to be united, we can do that. We can be one. And we cannot blame anyone that is stopping us from being one, from being united. It's it's a matter of perspective, and it's a matter of changing our software. Somebody keeps saying changing our mindset, which it's not easy to do that. Like taking two people from different backgrounds, and I'm glad because today, and you guys, we shared about history as well. Like we must be able to forgive, to look past that, and to see where we are going and what we want in the future. What do we want? What kind of Africa do we want for our kids, and where do we want to see us in the next 5 to 10 years? And when we think about that, then we realize that what has happened in the past is not really necessary to hold on to, because it's kind of like we're giving ourselves excuses of not being united because of the past and because of what has happened, and which is not really smart, because that's lead us to where we are right now. And we're gonna keep saying that they don't want us to be united, or they're taking advantage of us. If the problem is unity, then we have to do that right now. We have to make that decision right now and to look forward. That how are we gonna get everybody involved? That's the topic of today, to move toward that unity. Because after we reach that point, even pursuing that, because that's what we're doing right now, then we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. They might not want us to be united, but that's out of our concern. What are we doing about it? Are we ready to be united? Are we ready to leave our past behind? Are we ready to sacrifice the pains that we went in the past because of this tribe, because of those people? Are we ready to leave that aside and to come together as one, to be like, you know what, you're my brother. Without us being one, I think we're going to lose a lot. We have to be united. Let's get together. Let's become one. Let's work together. Let's build the new Africa. Let's build the new story that our kids will be talking about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think this is something that we have to put on ourselves rather than putting fingers outside. Because I see, some hatred sometimes, towards, the US, toward the British. That's not what we are trying to build here. We're not trying to build something that, like, build a generation that will hate. I hate that kind of hate. That's not what we're trying to build. But we are responsible of what is happening right now. Okay, colonialism, it happened, and we were responsible to some extent. But some other things, they happen in that time, in that way. But right now, we are responsible to what kind of Africa we want to build, from now point moving forward.
True. If I can add, Mika, what you just said now about building and stuff, and taking responsibility to say, okay, we've been through this, we've been through that. What is the way forward? Because the world is moving forward. The world is building. They're building systems. They're building apps. They're building things that are running the world. What are we doing? What are we going to? That's why it's why sometimes we are not even respected wherever we fly to. Then we feel that, oh, those Americans hate us. Those white people hate us in Europe when we visit, or when we do going to school or whatever, or seminar. Then you mistreated on the airport and you feel otherwise. It's because sometimes some people, because they also don't know much about us, others, they just mistreat us because they don't see the bigger contributions that we do in the world. We do contribute, but some of the things might not be trending in terms of where the technology comes from, or whether something comes from Africa or not. But we do contribute, but the world doesn't see us that way. They just see us as those backward people, or those people. Imagine in 2021 where somebody can still think Africans are still living under trees and whatnot, and we've never lived under trees in any case,
Well,
So
Yeah.
things like that. Once we can grasp that, to know, what, we need to build. We need to build, and I think also this thing will have to be something that is integrated from school. You know, whereby the kids can know about the world, where the world is, what the world is doing, what the continent is doing, African history being shared as well. Like what the other Ezra, my my other name, said about the Zulus. Part of why South Africa, as much as South Africa went through apartheid, but it never went through slavery, is because the tribes were united. But now to conquer them, they had to divide tribes to say, okay, you're a Zulu, you're a Xhosa. Then the Xhosas fought their own battles alone. When they were beaten, they went to the Zulus. The Zulus beat them, and then they regrouped and beat the Zulus, and that's how. And then when the tribe dispersed because of war, That's when now they started taking land, taking other things, because now the people are no longer as one. Partly why we're trying to unite as Africans, we're trying to get the things like that in order, where we can share knowledge, we can know about each other, instead of me having to go buy something in Korea. I've got a neighbor next door who can sew, who can do clothes, who can do what. Because right now there's many nice clothes that I've seen in Ethiopia that they should be exporting to other countries. And and especially looking at Ethiopia, you've got a lot of diaspora people all over the world, where you can export a lot just besides food. Because a lot of people, when you go to the States and say there's an Ethiopian restaurant, sometimes we need to get to a point where we know that we've got even restaurants, we've got not besides food, but the what do you call them?
But the food is good, man.
So where we know that we've got what's this? We've got a culture that we need to, because America is selling culture. That's soft power.
Yeah.
They don't need to come to your land to colonize you or fight you. All they do is they sell their lifestyle. You're buying their lifestyle. You're buying their technology. They're selling that soft power. So we need to
I
get
think
to that,
like
because
Ezra is not just, we're not just together in names, but how you the thing that you're saying.
I need
I've been
another
saying this.
Mika.
I've been saying this. Ethiopia should not export coffee. It should export the drinking and the culture and the idea of coffee.
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
when you talk to an Ethiopian about coffee, it's not beans, the coffee beans they think about.
Yeah.
Why should Starbucks be the one franchising coffee across the world? Why not Tomoko? Tomoko should be the one, if I was the prime minister of Ethiopia right now, one of the first thing that I would say that we stop exporting coffee. The only thing that we export to the world is our companies that franchise to places. I know Tomoko has just opened a shop in Japan, Tokyo. It's a coffee shop, famous coffee shop. Kuru probably knows it. But this is to really strengthen the point of my mokshe. But in Amharic, we call it mokshe. When people have the same names, we call it mokshe. So my friend from South Africa, and I just to strengthen it, we should be exporting that. We should be exporting our financial institutions, like banking and telecom. We should be exporting our tourism sector,
Exactly.
so we should, those are things are important to Africa. And I'm not even big on industrialization. A lot of people are big. As an economist, I wouldn't want too much industrialization in Africa. I don't want to destroy our environment the way the world has destroyed its own environment. I want to protect industries that reflect our values on the way we protect our environment. Our indigenous, right now, United Nations is now beginning to recognize indigenous communities that have culturally been associated with protection of ecosystems. And many of those indigenous practices are in Africa, in Central Africa, even in Ethiopia. I know there's the Mursi community are known for that, protecting the environment and the ecosystem through a very systematic cultural way of doing it. So I just wanted to make sure that is important, that is understood, that the notion of exporting our ideas, our culture, our values, our way of life is a much more powerful and much more potent force for the world. And then this takes me to the other points. Sorry guys, I'm driving, that's why it can be a little bit noisy. But this takes me to another important point, which is if you take the world right now and they say, "Whoa, no, we want to have a share of what the world creates right now," then we'll run into conflict. But we also should propose that we are going to create something that has never been done in the world before. So we are adding value to what already exists. So you don't have, it's not a zero-sum game. It's not what in economics called Pareto optimal, where in order for me to be better off, somebody else has to be worse off. We are not proposing that. We're proposing something that the world doesn't know. New opportunities, exactly. So we're creating, not scrambling for something that doesn't exist or exist. but we're creating something that doesn't already exist, that doesn't have any. So there's a method called appreciative inquiry approach. Like, the problem solving approach, where you look at the problem and then you solve the problem.
Yeah.
Another approach is called appreciative inquiry approach, and that appreciative inquiry is essentially about what are the open spaces that have not been occupied, that are not contested, what are not
Yeah.
contested right now. So African unity that takes advantage of these uncontested spaces, areas and opportunities that have never been created. Now we're creating. It's better off. It will be better off everybody in the world. And to me, that's the green legacy that Abiy is championing, not just in Ethiopia but across Africa. Sorry to be, harking on Ethiopia because it's so familiar, it's so easy. But it's not to say that other African countries don't have their own say. And I want that voice to be heard as well. But the reason
Thank
I'm
you for
giving
clarifying that.
the reason I'm giving this is so familiar and so easy. The green legacies, for example, it is based on these very simple, basic African principles of all things matter. And so I don't know if you want to share the document, the picture I shared with you, and if people are interested, I can just
On WhatsApp?
quickly elaborate a little bit on that. It's a curriculum that we developed for the school I was running when I was in Ethiopia, and we had what it's called a locally robust, a globally connected education. So a contextual education, and they say this is. But what does it really what does that really mean? So we had to dig in a little bit. And I remember reading a book, I forgot the author of the name, but it's a Ugandan author, famous author, written probably in the 50s or 60s, about the ontology of African. And we looked at Ethiopian issues. I don't know. Can you share it? Is it possible for you to share it?
I'm working on it. I'll share it very soon. Okay. I'm working on it.
So we developed a curriculum that to operationalize the notion of globally connected and locally robust and globally connected education. And so this is how we operationalize it. So the image that you see, school-wide operationalization of how do we do it. So where does the vision come?
Ezra?
I think we lost him.
We lost him. I'm trying to find.
How do we weave in this new idea with what is already existing? That's how we came up with this. Aside issues with pushing aside modern educations, for one, a lot of African countries are invested in it. Do you want
Ezra,
me to send it to your email
you.
address? Is that something that?
Actually, because I'm trying to actually send to my email. You can send me to my email. We are losing you though, Ezra.
Anyways, so the idea is essentially it's had no.
You guys cannot hear him too, right?
No, I can't hear him. I can't.
Ezra, we cannot hear you.
Yeah.
Ezra?
I think it's the connection.
Yeah, I think it's
add to what is to the color of ideas that exist in the world. To add to it, Turkish might have ideas, and Chinese might have ideas, and Africans have ideas, and those reflect our value. At the same time, those ideas are will improve the world, will make the world better, more unified to addressing things that are common to the world order. So, anyways, I don't think you've been able to share that. So,
somebody, Papa G said in the comment section, That is my thought, Ezra. We have to create a way to civilize Africa, create civilization that support nature.
Yeah.
Hello?
On a softer note, right, Mika?
Yeah, yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
just want to say, like, Africa must wake up. Okay.
Come on, brother. Sing it out.
Sing it out, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
you guys. I just
D-
I had a very blessed session with you guys. I have to leave because I have to take a phone
yes,
call.
yes.
It's kind of
Oh,
personal.
definitely.
All right. So I'm just gonna
Uh,
leave. I just want to say, guys, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure
please
meeting Mr.
say hi
Ezra
to
from
Mama.
South Africa.
It's a private call. It must be Mama. Please say hi to Mama.
All right. Ciao, guys. Ciao, ciao, ciao.
That's good, prof.
All right.
Mm. All
um,
right.
just something to add. Just now a little bit. I think we've
Yes,
pushed.
brother.
Yeah, I mean, looking at what Prof S there was saying, just to
Mm.
add, like those points that he was saying, he's more the economics guy, oh,
Mm.
it's oh, okay, yeah, but anyway, going back to the unity stuff, like
Mm.
when you look at the Berlin conference and the British, I mean the Europeans, how they united to divide Africa.
Mm.
It's also
Mm.
this creates an opportunity for us as Africans to also sit down and plan on how we can also build ourselves. Because for the Europeans,
Mm.
they saw that they are fighting amongst each other. It's not of their own interest.
Mm.
Hence, there was the Berlin Conference to divide the
Mm.
continent. So even now, as we as Africans now, we're deciding to say, you know what, this is the time where we feel that, especially as young people, to say this is our time now to
Mm.
sit down as well to pave a new forward. That generation that got the independence, some of them are no more,
Yeah.
some of them are very old. They cannot take us to the promised land. We need to be the Joshuas. Since we're more on the
Yeah.
Bible, we need to be the Joshua
Mm.
generation that's saying that's taking the baton from the Moseses of that took us out of
Mm.
Out of that slavery. Let me not say Egypt. I don't want to offend anyone there, but to the
Yeah.
promised land. To the promised
African
land. We need
brothers
to
and
be
sisters. Yeah.
the ones to see the promised land. We need to see the promised land. We need to be the ones that will
Mm.
take the baton forward to say, you know what, we are here now. We need to go forward. We need to build now in terms of we need to cross the Jordan. We need to go to the promised land. And how are we going to cross it? How are we going to do those in this way? Now we need to sit down, plan as Africans. And such platforms, let's not underestimate them and say, hey, we've got over 1 billion people. There's very few people who are listening to us.
Mm.
But the movement, that's where it starts. No movement ever just
Yeah.
became like with, just look at like Jack Ma, how he started Alibaba. He started in an
Mm.
apartment, with just very few people. Others believe in the vision,
Yeah.
others didn't believe in the vision. And we'll make peace.
Mm.
There are those who gladly want us to unite as a continent to
Mm.
build each other up, because we all want to build. We want to build infrastructure. We want to have good infrastructure for people to also stay
Yeah.
in our continent instead of feeling like we are
Mm.
beggars in other nations. So we
Mm.
need to be thinking, sitting down as young people and saying, how are we going to do this? We have the technology. We know how to do those things. How can we build apps? How do we
Mm.
build things that will make life easy for us? We know that yes,
Mm.
there's the big guys, the big boys already dominate some space, but there's still room for everyone to grow. And we need to be building up
Yeah.
each other in this manner where we've got someone with background in
Mm.
economics, someone has different history economics. We all
Mm.
merging those ideas, then we can move and build this continent. It's doable. It's not that
Mm.
it's not doable, because I know some people already say, you know what, that's a pipe dream, it will never happen. Regardless of
Mm.
resistance, there'll always be resistance. We cannot sit and say,
Mm.
oh, the Europeans have companies are already in the continent, they're controlling us, we won't be able to maneuver.
Mm.
We need to still plan and try to do something for ourselves. you know Rather,
Mm.
we
Mm.
we we, we try than just say sit down and say we wish we could have done something for ourselves, for our generation, because we're going to have kids, we're going to have kids that are going to grow. And what have we as a generation brought? Because the other generation brought the independence, they've brought the democracies, they've built some form of systems. We need to take the systems going forward, and we need to contest for leaderships. We should not be crying and say, "Oh, the old people are running their politics." We need to be involved as well as young people, because there's no way we'll ever be in power or build our nations if we are not participating in whatever is happening in our countries. Hence, the old people will just occupy the space because the young people are saying, "Nah, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook. We sorted. Let the old people eat that money." They all despair instead of saying, "No, we still have the energy to run the governments. We still be the ones that should be flying, making business everywhere, and doing, building our continent, our communities and stuff, instead of just outsourcing all our problems to say somebody must come and assist us." So we should not outsource our problem. We need to fight to fix our problems. That's just something small. I see Ezra is back. I think maybe might wants to add something. And I see you also posted
Drop
that
the
thing.
mic, Ezra. Drop the mic. Ezra, I say. This is the moment you drop
still
the
driving.
mic. I actually mute him, because it was kind of noise. I'm sorry, Professor Ezra. I mute you. With all due respect. Are you here, Ezra? Hello? Oh, what happened? I think he muted himself, maybe, because I cannot unmute him here. Oh, but anyways, Ezra is still there because this is what Ezra wanted to talk about. He WhatsApped me this paper here. Yeah, maybe you can try to come back again, Ezra. Oh wait. Yeah, Ezra, we couldn't hear you as well. I think you might be having maybe connection problem there. Now I can say you're having connection problem because we can hear one another, and you are in the US right now. You see that? Come on. Ezra, come back to Africa.
Come back to Africa. It's a sign.
Yeah, internet is good here right now.
Tell him we've got 5G in Africa now, eh?
Yeah. Man, this PPT here, I guess, this PDF file, Ezra wanted to share about this, but when you look at this, you see African ontology. I don't even know the meaning of ontology. You know that, Ezra? What is an ontology?
Hey, I also don't know about it, eh? Also don't know about
Ezra
it.
is back.
But from looking at the diagram, ontology.
Okay, Ezra is back.
Maybe
Ezra. Hello? Hello? I
can hear you.
Driving. Ezra, we can hear you. As long as you're safe, you can drive and share your opinion. But if you're not, then... Hello, Ezra? Let me text him here. We cannot hear you. All right, he's gone again. But my brother Ezra, man, I appreciate you coming here today. This is amazing. It's so good having different people and different perspectives. You're from the South, I'm from the East. They're from also East Africa, but also Horn of Africa. We have a brother from the West, the Gambia. It's amazing having this collaboration and discuss. I think I really enjoy the talk that we had today here. It's just amazing. So special. Very beautiful.
That's how the unity will start, in terms of having different opinions and different people hearing different mindsets and aspects of people, where they are, challenges, and how we can be trying to unite. Because the more we do such things, because I think part of what we talk about, the unity, it's through knowing each other. This is currently now.
Mm,
This is a step to know each other as people, to familiarize
mm,
with each other, how we talk, our lingos and everything. Then when we need to say,
mm,
okay, now this is the plans we need to put in place. It's not gonna be like a stranger. We can't hear
mm,
this stranger. Who is this person? So
mm,
things like that.
mm,
These are the things that should be uniting us. Those are the foundations, if I may use that word,
mm,
as foundations for us to try to unite people as well through media. Media is
mm,
a powerful tool. I don't really need to fly to your country for me to speak to you. So these are the
yeah.
foundations that we can save money, cost at a cheaper price. That's why we need internet as a going forward. The whole continent must be connected to the
Mm,
internet. We must fight for that. We must
mm,
fight for people to have access to internet. Even access to computer literacy. It should be a basic thing in our education system. Instead of, as you said the
mm.
other time,
Okay.
that you only
Can you guys hear me? A bit because I was driving. Can you hear me
Hello?
now? Sorry, I missed a lot
yeah,
of
I
stuff.
can hear you.
But yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you want me to go through
We're
this?
just about to
This is
close.
something that we worked internally. We took us to
Okay.
to to work on this, to develop this, and it's not necessarily a template, or it's not necessarily like something that we want to impose on others, but this is an attempt to Africanize and Ethiopianize our education without
Mm,
necessarily taking existing what so-called modern take on education. So we came to this
mm,
conclusion that one of the struggle for Africa and one of the struggle for African countries and and African people is that education that's not contextual, that's not in
mm,
alignment with our values, with our tradition, with our history, with our culture, with our
mm,
practice, with our daily life, with our aspirations. So we've been promoting that in our school, the idea of locally robust and globally connected education.
mm,
And so we practiced it for a few years, and then we said, you know what, we need to develop a curriculum that reflects this, that reflects our experience of implementing this, and that reflects our aspiration and how where we want to take it, and give it system and process. And so essentially, so what we have is, so we studied closely African ontology, and
mm,
our guiding person on this one is a Ugandan author, a very famous Ugandan author who wrote African ontology, the book on African ontology. I forgot the name. I've done this so many years, I don't remember the title of the book. But essentially, what we
mm,
took out is that from that is that African people. He talked about African faith and African religion pre-colonial era, and even and then linking it to the post-colonial and during and post-colonial era. And he talked
mm,
about these five things that are important for African people and African cultures, African traditions. But what he said was that God, in the sense of the spiritual realm, from not necessarily from the perspective of faith, Christian or Muslim faith, but essential, basic, historical African way of thinking of God, and then
mm,
and then the spirit world, and then the animal and the plants and other
mm,
phenomena like the universe, all of that was the five tying things, and the human they saw humanity as the one that ties all of those things together.
mm,
So the reason we put human at the center is that we recognize from these studies that African always saw a human as a like the people living on Earth. We are the one who tie together our, our ancestors. So when we talk about
mm,
spirit, we're talking about our ancestral spiritual connection. And then we looked to Ethiopian philosophy, Ethiopian contextual philosophy, and we found out particularly from a religious perspective, the Orthodox religion in Ethiopia has been the one to preserve this ancient Ethiopian cultural way of thinking, and then we figured out how do we institutionalize this. So then we say, we need to instill it in our value system, and say like a value that is based on a rigor and a reflection and an interaction. And then we had what we call those things you see: interact, reflect, and become. What we figured, those are the catalysts that catalyzes what we see context and what is on a daily basis a practice on a daily basis. So on a daily basis, my students are studying chemistry, physics, and biology, history, civics, and maths. But how do we link that to the broader context? So without necessarily ending the study of modern science, how do we embed African values and Ethiopian values to it? And so you see at the bottom of it is institutional practice, the way we do it. We do still have our classes and like the typical thing that you find in any typical African classes, but we will challenge our students to integrate the knowledge. So let's say, a lot of Ethiopians know, a lot of Africans, probably some Africans, at least the elites know it, and a lot of the world knows it, Ethiopian food and the injera, for example, and how it's made, how the injera is made, and how it is
I
constituted,
love
and how it's,
injera.
so the injera, we will challenge our students to look at it from the context of history, and from the context of mathematics, from the context of chemistry, so you take these lessons that you've learned from the West, but how does it relate to the thing that matters the most to Ethiopian, which is the thing they eat on a daily basis, the thing they eat, they think about the ideas and the practices, the traditions that underpin the daily life of an Ethiopian. So that's what you see. So how do we connect? So the catalysts are the ones that accelerate the process. So by encouraging interactions with the knowledge, and by encouraging reflections from the knowledge, and then we can instill the process of becoming a better person, a better African, a better Ethiopian, a better human being. So I don't know if that's like I've done justice to you guys explaining this. What seems to be. I mean, there's a lot of things to unpack here, so I haven't unpacked everything. But broadly, that's where the genesis of this curriculum that we developed for that school. And I think there's a lot of ideas across Africa that, like, the African Leadership Academy in South Africa is one of them. They have incredible efforts to really contextualize and Africanize leadership and the pursuit of the education of leadership. But and then the school I went to in Ghana is a Pan-African school. Knowledge in the service of Africa is what they do for, and that's where I learned my Pan-African values and Pan-African verb came from my experience in Ghana. So there's a lot of things going on in Africa, but we need to give voice to them and these platforms that we're thinking about, and then so that people can see, so there's a way to do it. It's not just that we aspire to be united, but there are ways, multiple ways of doing this, and then the sum total of all of this comes to the idea of and the notion of madammer. You just add them up, and they create synergy for them.
Exactly. Well, appreciate, gentlemen. This is amazing. Actually, wait. You, Ezra, say, my email, right?
Yeah. I don't have your email. I have your phone number, but I don't have your email.
My phone number. And Ezra from South Africa, you know my email, right? Ezra.
Oh, he says he doesn't. Email. He says he doesn't. Text it. He doesn't.
Okay. Let me text you right now. So through this email, because he was asking if we have a group, but we don't really have, but I think it's a good idea. I'm texting you this email. You can send to me here your number you use on WhatsApp, and I'll text you my number as well, so that maybe we may keep in touch. Like we can have a panel, group with Kuru ET. I don't have Professor Kuru's number, but I think that's where we can brainstorm ideas. But gentlemen, I really appreciate for stopping by here today. And before you guys leave, I want to tell you because the other day, Ezra, yesterday, you were asking, you say that you had some ideas that you could share with me later on. But one thing that I wanted to share with you guys and Swahili Nation family and One Africa, family right here, is that one of the things that I am dreaming, it's going to happen as long as I'm here in Tanzania, is having a studio where we'll have this in another level, because the idea and the vision has always been to create an African media that will talk about Africa. We share the stories about Africa, because the stories of Africans has to be, shared by Africans themselves. So this is one of the things. And as for now, I'm home. This is something that I am looking forward. So you guys, again, keep praying over that, because it's gonna be amazing. Having a place where we can all share, and maybe you guys will have an opportunity to visit Tanzania and come in the studio and have this panel in the studio, which would be
Yeah.
amazing,
Yeah.
and have different guests, come in the studios to share their ideas and all those kind of things. So I believe it will happen one day in the future, but it's just something that I would love to share with you guys, to continue to keep that
I
in your
I want
ideas and
Ezra to
prayer.
see me, so
Nice.
Hey, hey,
I'll park
Yeah,
somewhere.
Mika, just tell,
yeah,
tell Prof Ezra that we've got 4G and 5G now in Africa. We saw something there in America.
exactly. Exactly. We lost you for a
America's
moment,
network.
and I was like, "What's
America's
going on
network.
in America? Come back to Africa."
Yeah, I can tell you that, like, for this poor, useless network, sometimes I can tell you, you pay dearly
Yeah,
here. It's not cheap.
yeah, yeah, man. So
Yeah.
I think
But Mika,
I'll have a group of all of you guys together, and I think it'll be amazing to brainstorm some ideas sometime.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
in
This is incredible.
closing, before I say shalom as well, Mika, we'll put you in our
Mm.
prayers, and we pray for the
Thank you.
success of this studio. So
Mm.
yeah, we need to protect this baby. So,
Yeah,
and thank you for the platform,
exactly.
and thank you for this platform. It helps us a lot. We are connecting. We are all learning from each other, and I must
Mm.
say this is the best African content.
Mm.
This is the best, man. And
Yeah,
and thanks for
I
such,
appreciate
because
it.
there's been a lack of this intellectual capacity in
Yeah.
in the media space. Yeah, thank
Mm.
you very much for the
You,
platform.
yeah,
Can,
you guys made it better, really.
yeah. Can I say that I'm like very hardened, very like, it is very like, I find this is it's beginning to be an emotional thing, like for me. Like, I've always dreamed about Pan-Africanism since I was 15, 16. Since I picked up
Yeah.
the notion of Pan-Africanism, always struggle to make a case for Pan-Africanism, even among Africans. And when I
Mm.
am like in today, after many, many years, I see that it's a
Mm.
much easier climb now, because there are better
Yeah.
people who are articulating the issue. There are people who are committed
Mm.
to the cause even better than I was. So I have a great amount of optimism, even though
Mm.
it's just at the beginning of it, at the tip of it. But I see that at the
Yeah.
end of it, I envision the end of it, and I see so much hope and
Mm.
opportunity. And thank you for doing that, Mika. And thank you, Israel,
Mm.
for your
That's okay.
incredible. Thank you, Professor Kuru, and thank you
Mm.
from. I didn't get the name of the person from Banjul. This is
Essence.
like, okay, yeah, from the Gambia. So
Mm.
incredible, and hopefully it's gonna grow
Mm.
soon, bigger.
Thank you, Professor Ezra, too. Thanks to you.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Okay,
Yeah, we're better together. You know what I'm saying? We're better together. Unity is
yes,
power.
yes, that's true.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, bye,
Thank you
guys.
again, guys. All
Shalom,
right, guys.
guys.
I love you. Have a good day. Bye bye, Ezra. Yo, guys, I appreciate, man. It's almost 3 hours, only 10 minutes to be 3 hours. Guys, wow, this has been a very long session, but it's been very productive. That's why you saw me sometimes, standing up and trying to stretch a little bit. But yeah, guys, Swahili Nation family and One Africa family, please continue to pray for that, because it will be amazing having a studio and doing what we're doing right now in a whole new level, in a whole new dimension. If we do have that, it will be very easy to get some other guests, who can come to studio and actually have a conversation for a better tomorrow. So finger crossed to that. I know God is good, and I know you guys, you're out there praying, for this, and hopefully one day we're gonna be there. All the dreams will come true. So yeah, guys, I love you, and thank you for everybody that has joined here today. The conversation. If you joined right now, please, you can go back and try to see what we have been discussing. And I will try maybe to cut down the part that all of us we came together and share. I'll try to cut that down and maybe reshare it again. But this live stream will be available. so you can watch anytime. You can share with your friends. You can share with anyone, and it's gonna be amazing. Anyways, guys, I love you, and have a good night, Africa. Have a good morning, Africans who are outside. Good afternoon, and yeah, God bless you guys. Okay, I gotta go enter.